Now, I request you to kindly put your mobile phones on silent mode for the duration of the seminar. Thank you for your kind cooperation and attention. May I request all to take their seats? Please put your mobile phones on silent mode for the duration of the seminar. All are requested to take their seats. Before we begin, may I request all to rise for the national anthem. Namaste and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I, Selby Nambishan, would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our esteemed guests, distinguished speakers and media delegates to the seminar on Making Mumbai Future Ready, a Sustainable Way, to listen to experts talk about something that really concerns us. Kindly note that we will not be having any Q&A session after each topic, but the speakers will be available over light refreshments post the seminar. So, friends, to initiate the session, may I request Mr. Ram Gandhi, Governor and past President, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to the person who was behind conceiving this idea for this wonderful, meaningful seminar, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Gandhi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So nice to see some of you, some people I know, some people I don't, but we'll get to know all. On behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I give a warm welcome to all of you, and I hope you will enjoy this great session, which is making up, as she said. Special thanks are due to the distinguished speakers who have taken their very valuable time to come today and speak to us today. Their knowledge of the subject will help us to determine our future, what the Chamber wants to do. Thank you. I also want to actually especially thank Mr. Ramesh Narayan. Actually, without him, this seminar would not have been possible, or even the subject would not have been possible. But had it done, and as many people know, Ramesh Narayan, as you know, is the first person to raise his hand if any good work is being done. So, and today, anyone who raises his hand, I never let it go. So that's thanks to him, we are all here today. I must also confess one more thing, that I'm a substitute here, because I have the president and the vice president both are out of India. So unfortunately, they could not be present today. So as I'm a substitute, because I'm welcoming them on their, welcoming you all on their behalf. Now, the IMC has been forefront in many of these cases in the interest of mainly for industry and trade. We've taken up octroi issue, which we won easily, Public Premises Act. In fact, one of the times we had taken up during centenary year was that the Mithi River, as you know, created a lot of problems. And we had Berkeley interns in India at that time, and we sponsored the entire Meeting River project to make a study of it and give us the solutions. Don't ask me where the report is and where the report is lying, but the report was made and given to the government of India, I mean Maharashtra government. Now we have taken a lot of, besides global warming, we had also taken out during the centenary year, over 100 years as we know, a study the suggesting to greening of the footprint. We have taken out a complete suggestions for that in 2007. Now I just very shortly tell you how this incident took place. There was an article which I read about 2 months back, where Jane Fonda was getting an award, Earth Award or something. And she went around talking to people after she received the award and asked everybody, what are you doing for global warming? What is your views of global warming? He said, we are doing nothing for global warming. He said, why? Because no one asked us to. That is the whole point. That no one asked us to. This is the answer she got. And she was shocked. And that is where the idea terminated. And I put it to my President's Advisory Council. And they were very, very helpful. And each one of them supported the idea. And that hence this has taken place. This is how it came about. Of course, let me confess one more confession, that we have no clue how to go about it. And this is a subject you can't bluff your way through. So we have no clue. So we are looking for a clue how IMC can take it forward, what we should do, what should be the priority. And for that is why the speakers, Ramesh has invited everyone. Now, as you know, this is a serious threat to the world, and particularly to a global, coastal city of Bombay. So there is an urgent need for all people to get together so that work together to come on something. But we must prioritize in our IMC fees. We should prioritize what IMC should do at least. We can't take, there's so many subjects and so many subjects to touch. So we will prioritize after the seminar, form a committee and form a prioritize what we should do. But this will be a long-term project. We don't intend to take it for a year, 1 year, 2 years. It will be as long as it takes, as long as our grandchildren grow up, or even more. Now, before I conclude, let me say a little bit about IMC. Many of you may not be knowing. IMC was born in 1907 and it's over 100 years old. And in fact, because it took part in the freedom struggle, Mahatma Gandhi this is the only chamber in India where Mahatma Gandhi lent his name to. And that we are very proud of that. And they also released the postal stamp during the centenary year for IMC. Now we have a very heterogeneous mix of members. We have a small scale, we have Reliance, we have Tatas, we have all kinds of members there. So it's a kind of members that represents an entire lot, which normally chambers don't all do that. This is one of the chambers which represent trade and industry in a big way. Over and above that, we have about 150 associations which are members. So that brings the whole membership, if you count all that, goes to well over 400,000. So we are very proud of this and we represent them in the best way we can. Now thank you all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here today, and we can start the session now.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to introduce an individual who, for an audience of this caliber, needs no lengthy introduction. Therefore, I'll be brief. Mr. Bittu Sehgal is an environmental activist, writer, and the founder of Sanctuary Nature Foundation, a non-profit conservation organization that works on environmental policy, advocacy, and habitat management. He is also the founding editor of Sanctuary Asia, a wildlife and ecology magazine. He is also the founder of Kids for Tigers. May I now request Mr. Sehgal to present his address on creating a future-ready Mumbai. Over to you, Mr. Sehgal.
Difficult to compress in 10 minutes the damage that we have done to the planet over the last 150 years. But the one thing that, first of all, I must confess that, you all are too old for me, My average constituency now is about 14 to 15 years old. So forgive me if sometimes in this few minutes that I have, I resort to some examples that I talk to children about. So let me start with one thing. When we talk to 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, we ask them, would you like to live in a magic home? The doors are made of chocolate. The windows are made of lollipop. When you open the tap, you get lemonade. And every stone you see is sweet and nice and wonderful. And the kids say, I said, don't talk about sugar highs and things with your mom. But the fact is, the magic of the home is that when you go to sleep, everything comes back again. fixes itself. And 10-year-old kids, we are explaining a word called homeostasis, the ability of something to come back. You get a fever, you start sweating. You feel cold, you start shivering. The sweat cools you down, the shivering warms your core, and that keeps you alive. The entire planet, every last millimeter of this planet has been so designed, the biosphere, as to be self-repairing. Now, again, I'll now go to slightly older kids. When I talk to the college kids, what I tell them is that, look, I start with an apology and I say, look, I'm 76 years old and I owe you an apology. And that apology is basically that while we threw the British out because we said they were colonizers, my generation has colonized you, and that's the ultimate colonization adventure. It's intergenerational colonization. We've colonized their land, we've colonized their water, we've colonized their air even up to a point, and we've colonized their climate. So let's put this in perspective. Number one, I have no right to foist ecological grief either on a 10-year-old or on a 70-year-old. It's not my job to do that, because if we lose hope, then it's always, "Arey yaar, kuch hona hi nahi hai, to jaane do." We can fix this problem. But first we have to admit that we have a problem. And the analogy I will draw before we get specific to Bombay is that even I will have a single malt once in a while, but suppose I had 20 in a day or 30 in a day, my liver would begin to collapse. And the doctor would say that, look, you can't do this, you just can't do this. And he's been saying this to me for the last, let's say, 30 years, since Rio. And I say, okay, I won't drink single malts. I'll switch to rum. It won't work. We have to change our habits. We have to change what we do, and we have to do it with a sense of joy, and we have to do it with an understanding that things will get better. Let's come specifically to Mumbai. If I had my way, every meeting of every legislative assembly, every meeting of every large corporation would have the word, remember Methi River, hard on the top, so nobody could forget that that happened to us. 1,000 people died. And it was an avoidable error. It was the earliest warning, 2005. It was the earliest warning that something is going wrong which is visible with the climate. Now, the technology of what has gone wrong with the climate, now I don't think anybody really needs to know. We put up too much carbon. That carbon is formed envelope around us, and UV radiation can penetrate that envelope very easy, but infrared, when it tries to go out, much of it stays here. So that's called the greenhouse effect at one time. अपनी गाड़ी अगर हमने गाड़ी धूप में पार्क कर दी, तो फिर जब हम आएंगे तो खिड़की खोलते हैं कि जल्दी से धूप dissipate हो जाए. 10-year-olds understand what dissipation is. Now here for Bombay specifically, I think that more than many of the island nations, we are at risk here. And the risk is not some kind of the world is going to come to an end risk. This is a slow thing. And the real damage that is going to be done is not so much that you or I are going to drown or we will die or the water will come up. The temperature that is changing right now and the rain that is falling right now is no longer predictable. I am in the house of IMC, and Ram, I must say that I am glad that I am speaking here to you from the IMC, because the work of the environmental groups is done. What we used to say 30 years ago, whether you believed it or you didn't believe it, now you don't need to convince anybody. We know what's happening. We seen Wayanad yesterday. In Leh, it's 37 degrees. You can't land planes because the air is too thin. So, in Bombay today, if I had my way, and I would hope that IMC becomes the champion for this, we must accept one thing very, very blandly. We are not fighting to save tigers, elephants, forests, corals. We are fighting for ourselves and our economy. The only problem that exists and the difficulty is that we are fighting for long-term economics, whereas for the last 70, 80, 90 years, the whole world has been working on short-term economics. Jaldi se karo, Get the next quarter profit in, get the next election in, hurry up and do this thing. What on earth are you talking? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? So by that time, somebody, Bhagwan jane kya hoga. What we were worried about tomorrow is here today. And in Mumbai right now, we have come up with this idea of future-ready Mumbai. But what is future-ready Mumbai? I promise you it is not glass-lined buildings. I promise you it is not 60-story buildings. America did that because they never knew then. Right now they are already beginning to complain. When I go to these conferences abroad, they say that, look, what is India doing? We built all this, now we have to take it down, or rather we have to refashion it. You've only done 30% of the infrastructure that you have to build, and you're starting to build again the wrong way. And then you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the luxury, and you don't have the safety. So, in a nutshell, future-ready Mumbai is one where when the rain falls, it can percolate into the ground. If it doesn't percolate into the ground, it will come into your homes. We saw the tragedy that took place when 3 young, beautiful lives were snuffed out, and everybody began to blame everybody else. It is my fault. I accept the blame personally, because I must not have done a good enough job 30, 40 years ago when we were starting. Sanghi, it's a real problem. First, for Mumbai, we have to see that we allow the water to seep through. The second thing that we have to do is that we have to make sure that we understand the impact of the climate potential tomorrow. Today, what we think is the worry. Everybody is thinking in terms of the newspaper reports that say, Mumbai, so much of your land will get flooded. Of course, that's a problem. And of course, our investments should be such that we reduce the impact of rising seas as well as storms. But the much greater action that we have to take is to adapt our lives in such a way that the investments that we do make us less liable for the worst impacts of climate change. We cannot eliminate those problems, but we should reduce those problems. So even if it means for the moment कि भाई मेरे सर दर्द हो रही है तो क्रोसिन दे दो, क्रोसिन तो ले लो, don't have another drink. And we cannot any longer do business as usual. So sitting here in the house of IMC, I would say that the job of environmentalists is not over, but it's been done. Now it must take a different set of people. We don't know. Who am I? I edit a magazine, I've been seeing things, but I had the time, I climbed up a hill, I climbed up a tree, from there I saw, oh, there's a fire there, there's a flood there, there's this, I came down, and then I would tell Mr. Ram Gandhi, look, this is what the problem is. I couldn't fix those problems, I still can't fix those problems, but I need to convince everybody that there is a problem and there is a solution. And that solution for Mumbai, when I say the rainwater has to go in, that's not all. Every tree that we see in Bombay which is being sacrificed for road widening so we can drive cars, it's an air conditioner. That tree, if you touch your car in the sun with one hand and you touch a leaf with the other, you'll get a blister on your hand after a while, but that leaf is cool. That's transpiration. Under the shade you'll find a pan wala, you'll find a tire fixing karne wala, you'll find everybody under the shade of a tree. Those trees are our infrastructures. We must recognize what an infrastructure is. If I want to build a road, I will not rip open the railway line and build a road because that's an infrastructure, this is an infrastructure. But if we don't accept that the avenues of trees that we have are infrastructures and we want to cut those down to begin to go faster, at the end of the day, we will not be able to cope with the damage. Today what we are seeing, the pandemic is a classic example. The pandemic, it may surprise some people in this room, the pandemic was a direct result of the illegal wildlife trade. This was something that Professor Dasgupta from Cambridge came up with, and Lord Nicholas Stern from the London School of Economics said, the cost of inaction today is going to be infinitely larger than the cost of action that you take today. Today we say, oh no, how can we spend $1 billion on this? But we are going to have to spend $10 billion to fix that $1 billion band-aid that we were supposed to do. So I'm not going to go much further into the details of this. I would say remember Mithi. I would say when we look at the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, 104 square kilometers, if it were not for that, we would have lost 3,000 lives in the Methi River. The rain fell, it was Tulsi, it was Vihar, then it went to Powai, then it came here, and then still, and then the Mahim causeway is not a causeway, it's a Mahim dam. 140 square kilometers of water falls the catchment, and it only has got this much. So on a slightly lighter note, I will say that women seem to understand this better than men. I think we're testosterone ridden or what it was. But there's a little story we tell the 10-year-olds, and I'll stop with that. A guy went and refurbished his entire house. He got Persian carpets, he got beautiful paintings, he got everything. It was so beautiful down there. He went to sleep and he heard this tip, 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 tap, 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 tap noise. And suddenly he discovered that, oh my God, from the bathroom, all the water is coming down, my carpets are getting ruined. So he took a bucket and he quickly started throwing all the water out of the tub. And his wife came and said, look, what's happening? He said, there's water. So she said, oh, why don't you switch the tap off? That's what it is. We have to switch the tap off. You cannot take oil, coal, gas, more carbon and put it up and then say, oh, the meteorological department never warned us in time. We warned 30 years ago, and I am as much to blame as anybody else. I will just say this, there's no time left for argument. Nobody can you cannot any longer have the luxury of fighting with each other. We are in the same Titanic. Somebody may be drinking champagne and somebody might be sitting over there drinking tharra on the top, but we are all going to drown. So let's put it like this. The difference between the Titanic and what we are facing now is that the biosphere is self-repairing. We saw during the pandemic, birds had come up, skies were blue. The Methi River I could actually see. You could actually see down about 1 foot or 2 feet in the Methi River, otherwise you put your finger and bone would come out, So we can fix everything. It is possible to do it. And Ram, I'm sorry, and Sanjay are elected. It's your job to fix this, not mine anymore. But I promise to stand by you wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sehgal. That address really set the tone and the pace for the evening. Sir, please, sir, may I request you to please be on stage, please. Before you leave, sir, as a token of our appreciation and respect, may I request Mr. Ram Gandhi, past President and Governor, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to hand over a memento to Mr. Sehgal for sparing his valuable time for this seminar. You would like to know that this certificate says that on your behalf, IMC will light up a remote rural home with 2 solar lamps. Thank you to both of you. A loud applause, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we will be addressed by Mr. Rajesh Chaudhary, a charter member and a past president of the Rotary Club of Mumbai, Warsaw. He has been at the forefront of many initiatives in the areas of environment, education, and rural development. He is an expert in the field of environment and sustainability with a focus on water conservation. Today, he is here to enlighten us on rainwater harvesting, also a demand of the season. Over to you, Mr. Chaudhary.
Good afternoon. Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Sanghi, my old friend's father, dignitaries, fellow speakers, my friend Ramesh, who has more faith in me than I have in myself, and of course, eco-sensitive friends. It's so nice to be here. I remember in the mid-80s, I used to be part of the IMC, and I used to be organizing seminars and talks, the prominent one being the talk on environment by the then Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, that was held under the auspices of Indian Merchant Chamber, way back in 85 or 86, I guess. And to be invited today to speak here is like life coming, back in a circle for me. Mr. Sehgal is left, but he's been an inspiration. Okay. So he has been an absolute inspiration since the time that I started my career as a chartered accountant, and perhaps before that as well. Being a friend, Ramesh gave me the easiest topic, rainwater harvesting. Everybody knows about it. Because it's, but the fact is that no one is doing anything about it. Everybody thinks that someone else will do it, and that makes it more difficult. With a small presentation, I'll try to stimulate your collective sensibilities towards it. And in fact, according to me, rainwater harvesting, and my fellow speaker who's going to talk on wastewater recycling, in my sense, are the most important things that Mumbai has to do and has been long ignored by us corporate citizens as well as individuals. When I talk about rooftop solar, to people, 1 lakh investment, 30,000 rupees approximate saving a year. Many takers. If you talk about rooftop solar, but when you talk about rooftop rainwater harvesting, because we get water from about 120 kilometers from here in our homes, direct by pipe, at less than 1 paisa per liter. So if one has to invest 1 lakh rupees into water, a simple Mumbaikar who's financially very savvy looks at what am I going to save out of it? 1 lakh rupees. Probably I'll save only maybe a few hundred rupees at the end of the year. But so that's the problem that we are faced with. We are not investing much in rainwater harvesting as much as we are not investing in the wastewater recycling. Mumbai gets about 100 inches of rainfall every year, right? And the same that Vaitarna Lake gets, the same that the other catchment lakes that get. So we get about 100 inches, and most of this water goes into the sea not before flooding the streets of Mumbai. We are just getting all the water and seamlessly, so we don't concern about what it is and how much. If I have to today, talk about water in the areas where the water is coming from, that is Palghar and those areas. And if I raise, for any water project, immediately we get donations. Immediately, Ramesh's club is the forefront in, Rotary Club is forefront in that. If I give a call, within 1 minute, the amount is sanctioned by the Rotary Club of Bombay for a water project there. But when it comes to Bombay, it becomes difficult. For 100 people that I explain rainwater harvesting, 20 show interest, and only 1 person actually invests in it. Let me run through some data here. This I have already mentioned. Mumbai requirement is about 4,200 million liters per day of water. That's about 200 liters per person per day. Though, internationally, the norm is about 200 for personal consumption. We may not be consuming 200 ourselves because construction and other things also need water. So on an average, we probably individuals consume about 100 liters per day of water, and of which only 10 liters is used for cooking and drinking. Rest all is for washing and other areas which go into the drains. This is little stats about what Mumbai will need. And the rainwater harvesting potential of Mumbai is 2,500 million liters per day. So effectively, almost 60%, if we harvest everything, 60% of the water needs can be taken care of. And coupled that with the wastewater, or grey water I would call, recycling, then we are complete circular economy. We don't need to get water right from 120 kilometers away and let the farmers there and the tribals there use their own water. Sorry. So, it's not going there. Yeah. So right now, BMC has plans to construct 2 more lakes to augment capacity. Then, and funnily, I mean, we allow the rainwater go into the sea, and then BMC wants to spend 3,000 crores to, install desalination plant. Then we have an ambitious sewage water recycling, which is going to cost 30,000 crores. And there's a mandatory rainwater harvesting by BMC, but I mean, we also have 2 big tanks created by BMC, but it is all dry. So as I mentioned, we allow the water to go into the sea. I mean, desalination may be good for Middle Eastern countries, but probably not for India because we have enough rainfall. Then we also spend a lot of money on our vehicles maintenance when they get submerged, but we don't want to spend on rainwater harvesting. And then, as I said, I mean, we go use CSR funds. In tons, we are using CSR funds for making check dams, bore wells, and for providing water to the villagers. Of course, that is required because that's part of the MMR, and if we have to make Mumbai future ready, I'm sure, I mean, the MMR also has to be future ready. But we spend so much time and money there, we don't want to spend out here. Yeah, I was mentioning, sir, I draw a lot of inspiration from you. In fact, today I think my hairstyle is also inspired by your hairstyle. Okay, now coming back to the topic, rainwater harvesting, advantages. So rainwater harvesting, augmenting the water supply. Mr. Sehgal rightly mentioned that we need to ensure that the rainwater percolates down into the ground when in his talk. Then, of course, flooding, we can prevent, arresting groundwater depletion, which is already happening very fast. And all this, I mean, so rainwater harvesting is virtually, I mean, zero cost in that sense. So very low capital cost and overall positive impact on the environment. Even for trees that we need to sustain, we need groundwater around the year. So for that, again, we need water to percolate down because we have all our compounds and all roads and all the road shoulders, even the gutters are all today concretized, and there's no way in which the water gets percolated down. So the methods are basically 2 catchments, I mean, rooftop as well as surface runoff. About 1,000 square feet of rooftop can harvest about 2 lakh liters of water, typically. 2 lakh liters of water, 1,000 square feet of, in Mumbai, because of the rainfall that we're getting, 1,000 square feet of rooftop can harvest about 2 lakh. And you don't need to replace your rooftop solars. You can still do rainwater harvesting along with the rooftop solar. And if you assume about 150 liters per day, so 1,000 square feet of terrace can take care of 1 year's requirement of water of 1 family of 4. Again, I mean, in terms of you can direct into storage tank or subsoil. The one method is to take into the storage tanks, which is the ideal scenario. But it has a higher capex because you need to create a complete underground tank system where the water will be diverted to. The space constraints in the apartment complexes. Then again, I mean, you cannot just, you need to do some treatment before you take it down into the underground tank. But this could be, I mean, in terms of, larger complexes, one can think of doing this as a project where underground tanks can be created and all the rainwater can be sort of harvested. We have done one harvesting in Aurangabad in a hospital where we are harvesting almost 6 crore liter of water inside the hospital complex. The second method, and which should not be a real problem, is recharge the groundwater. So basically, we either recharge the bore wells or just the aquifers that are below the surface to create groundwater, and this groundwater can be eventually used, or even when the lakes today, the lakes are getting drier faster because the water is percolating down in the fractures that are there in the rocks. So if there's enough water there, even the lake water will not get sort of wasted. Playgrounds are very important. I mean, where, you know, on the side trenches can be created where the water can be diverted it to. So that is another recharge method of, I mean, catchment that can be recharged. Drains, of course, stormwater drains that are there across the city. So one can create certain pockets within the drains where the water can be flown down. So this is low cost and low maintenance. Now, since I'm standing in IMC, I'm sure, I mean, we are looking at CSR intervention, and these are the areas where CSR intervention can happen. I mean, government hospitals, we have huge hospital complexes like JJ, Nair. One can, you know, look at taking up with the government authorities and constructing, I mean, rainwater harvesting and the tanks, so it can make them self-sufficient eventually. Government offices, banks, their own residences, then public playgrounds and gardens, as I mentioned. And I mean, since charity begins at home, everybody needs to get going. It's easier said than done. It's very difficult to do it, but I mean, it's we need to be now sensitized to ensure that we, at least, I mean, if not 2,500 million, I mean, liters per day, even if you do like 400, 500 liters we are able to conserve, it will be a great beginning. As I mentioned, I mean, rainwater harvesting along with grey water recycling are the most important initiatives that we as corporate citizens need to undertake to make Mumbai future ready in real sense, because water is life and every drop counts. And in the end, I'll just say that let's make water everybody's business, not just NGOs or not just corporates, but everybody should be in it. In fact, I mean, it's great, I mean, that IMC has organized this seminar. And thank you, Ramesh, for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. Before you leave, as a token of our appreciation and respect, may I request Ms. Jyoti Doshi, President, IMC Ladies Wing, to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Chaudhary. As informed earlier, all the mementos are certificates in the name of the speaker that IMC would light up one remote rural home with 2 solar lamps. Thank you, Ms. Doshi and Mr. Chaudhary. Sure, sir. After that wonderful talk on rainwater harvesting, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the panel discussion on what the media can do to promote sustainability. We have with us a very elite panel to talk about media and sustainability. May we have on stage Mr. Abhishek Karnani, President, the Free Press Journal Group, and Vice President, the International Advertising Association, a person who is very passionate about sustainability. Mr. Partha Sinha, President and Chief Brand Officer, Bennett Coleman & Co., which publishes the Times of India. He is also Vice Chairman, Advertising Standards Council of India, Managing Committee member of the IAA, and a board member of the Indian Newspaper Society. And Mr. Neeraj Roy, the founder and MD of Hungama Digital Media, India's leading digital company. His group companies have a vast library of over 45 million assets and a presence in over 75 countries. Voted as among the 50 most influential people in mobile entertainment globally, Neeraj has been a past president of the IAA India chapter and is passionate about the environment. Please take your mark seats up. And to moderate this distinguished panel, we have Mr. Ramesh Narayan, someone who has been described in the media as the most awarded person in the advertising industry. So we will not even try to list them. But apart from advertising, he has also been awarded as a gender warrior and as the person who has done the most for sustainability in the marketing and advertising space. He has also headed almost all the advertising associations in India. Over to you, Mr. Narayan.
Thank you, Madam. Most thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, friends. It's not often that we have an August, extremely qualified panel like this here today. And I'd like to thank you all, first of all, for having taken time off. And our Neeraj Roy just in fact made it in time, thanks to the improved infrastructure here in Bombay. But yeah. So all of us, of course, know about the important role that the entire the media plays in this. It's up to them to actually highlight the issues, and they do. It's up to them to also highlight good things that are being done, like the IMC's effort today, which I'm sure they will do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'll, let me start off by saying, first question that I'd like to ask all of you all one by one is that I know that the media has actually done a lot in this area. However, beginning with Abhishek, alphabetical order, that's all. May I ask you as to what the FPJ group has done in this field, please? Sustainability.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, panelists and Rameshji. So last year we started the Sustainability Network Initiative. The objective was multi-pronged. One, that as news organizations, we want to disseminate information, spark dialogue amongst climate issues which all the planet is facing. The whole idea is not let the sustainability become a buzzword. We have to go beyond greenwashing. And secondly, internally also we have been seeing in what way can we contribute towards the environment. So our Sustainability Network Initiative is a cutting edge platform of storytelling. We do in-depth discussion, interviews on renewable energy from, I believe, green infrastructure. We do conclaves, we hold roundtable meetings so that, probably people can learn from each other, discuss things, so that it's early days. Idea is that, people should also, probably see what each of us are doing, and that can also be implemented in our organizations. So that's happening. Also, we have started video interviews of philanthropists and seeing that how the private giving can be channelized for the SDG goals. So these are things that, probably what's happening with FPJ. Apart from the Free Press Journal newspaper, physical paper, we have made our newsroom completely digital video first. And the whole idea is again to, probably fight the fake news, help the environment. Today, since the COVID, we are sending about 3 lakh copies of our newspaper on WhatsApp. I'm sure many of us, probably also here must be receiving it. That's the small way to make sure that, probably the information reaches out. There was a survey that, probably came out a few days back, which said amongst all the mediums from newspaper, social media, TV, the most trusted space is the newspaper. And because it is reaching out through digital platform, even the youngsters are reading it. So, I believe that's the other way, idea is to make it 1 million copies, what we want to do, so idea is just to make sure that, I believe we all Also on the group side, what we have done is we have put a solar panel on our building, so that probably is also helping us to reduce carbon footprint. All the basic LED lights we are using technology which is more energy efficient. So that's where probably what is happening at FPJ, and we are and especially we have our editor, we have a sustainability editor, Kavita, which is here in the audience. So I believe which she breathes and I believe lives sustainability. Yeah, so that's what is happening, Rameshji, at
That's
at
a lot of
FPJ.
stuff, I must say. Thank you very much, Abhishek. I would like to ask you next, actually, Neeraj, and I'll just share with the audience that Neeraj Roy has been himself passionate about the environment for as long as I've known him, at least, and he also every year puts his own money where his small mouth is. But later on in the day, you will be seeing a film also, which was made by them. Thank you for that, Neeraj. Over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh, and very, very good afternoon, early good evening to all of you. So before I respond to that, Ramesh, I'll tell you, my story of getting connected with this has two elements to it. One is my daughter, who at that time was about 5.5 or 6 years old. It was a very simple little thing. I was leaving the room at that point in time. I hadn't switched off the fan. And she pointed out to me that, I should do this. This was 13 years ago. She's 19 right now. And that sort of really triggered. And within a gap of about 2 or 3 months, a common friend of ours, and from an association which we are all a part of, which is the International Advertising Association, IA, two gentlemen, one sitting on the left over here, and another one by the name of Kaushik Roy, chose to come up with a program which at that time is called the IA Olive Crown Awards. Strangely, at that point in time, it was one of the most unique initiatives which recognizes creativity towards encouraging sustainability and a greener planet towards corporates. Now into, I think it's 12th year running, it's still very, very unique across various geographies. We now get like 400, 500, 600 entries around there. And the fact that that happened, that is what prompted me to start getting connected with this. Since then, in my own way, Hungama is a digital media entertainment company. We are into all things digital and media and entertainment, which is music, video, gaming, live, extended reality, etc. We have about 110 million active community. And we said that what can we do in our own small way? We basically started leveraging to begin with our own community to disseminate this information, and we broke this up into 3 parts. To us, the first was really just creating awareness. The second was to try and essentially engage curiosity into what are the causes. And the third, which is really the last 3 or 4, 5 years, because when we started this initiative, if you remember 12 years back, there weren't even panel conversations of this nature happening. I'm glad that in the last 5, 6 years, I think COP, the Paris Climate Accords in 2015 were the very big trigger in this entire process. And the third, as I said, was what can actions be taken by normal, everyday consumers? So from awareness to knowing what causes those 3 very crucial things which result in degradation of our climate, and what can we do as single actions, as it were. In that area, one of the worlds that I come from is the world of entertainment. So we went about engaging with public figures, which is loosely termed celebrities in our world, which are, actors, actresses, musicians, etc. And we started resonating with them the need that they have a responsibility in their own way, whilst numerous of them on their own were doing things. Very dear friend of ours, Dia Mirza, has been a UN ambassador and is a We actually wanted her to be here, part of this panel today, but unfortunately she is in town and was willing to do an online thing, but I said no, next time we'll set it up. So basically we started using that network to get the message across. And in that area, over the last 7 years, we have each year run a particular, we create a song. This is basis on 5th of June is World Environment Day. So on that day, each year United Nations comes out with a theme, and the theme could be, be plastic, be evolution, biodiversity, whatever. We basically try and simplify that. So biodiversity itself can be a complex thing for people to understand, but we'll get a lyricist, they'll do a song on it, and we put in about 25, 30 artists from the film world, and that gets disseminated. And what's very encouraging is that these songs over the years have run into hundreds of millions of views, and they're now going into about 6,000-7,000 schools, because we know in schools is where the first sort of little craft of how to save the environment, there are little plays, etc., which kids do. And in a way, I find some satisfaction in my own very small way, because that's perhaps where my daughter sort of picked it up. So it's kind of going back in its own form, our own version of sort of regenerating and bringing in the circle of whole things. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Absolutely lovely. I will come to our third speaker now, Partha Sinha, and I must share this with you all, that sometime in April, Times of India, early April, I think, won some Olive Crown Awards. And that same entire, campaign has won every, I think, award across the world now. Okay? At Cannes also now. And the man who inspired that is here, of course. It, would not have, happened. It's there up on the screen for you, Partha.
Thank you.
And, I was absolutely, delighted with this. And the fact that it actually, won, international acclaim, not only for its own field, sustainability, but also, for the advertising industry. Thank you for that. So, I would love to hear, how did you actually, come up with this? How did you then run it across, your own, media, first of all, and then all the rest?
Okay, what we'll do is we'll come back to this possibly a little later, because I was listening with rapt attention on the kind of initiative that everybody is doing. And I think we are lucky that if we do something, hopefully everybody in this room gets to know. So whether it's Green Mumbai initiative or Earth Care Award, and we have been doing this for a while. But we have been thinking about it of late, and we find that by doing only activity which is directed towards ecology may not necessarily work, because there's a fundamental dichotomy between economy and ecology. It is inevitable. And when it comes to a choice, we know, especially in Mumbai is a difficult city to live in. Everybody is trying to, meet ends meet. So therefore, economy will always take a priority over ecology. So you need to be able to play in the area which is the common space between economy and ecology. Unless and until you do that, you will not get actionable stuff. It's great to have fabulous awareness. It's great to have, like kids being the sort of mouthpiece of this movement. Everything is fantastic. But action will not happen unless we can link it back to economy. So therefore, what we are now thinking of is that is apparently a dichotomy, but at the same time, we all know, that's the principle of dialectics, that two opposing forces create something which is a meaningful stuff and which can go on. So we are trying to now concentrate on that and looking at slightly ambitious plans. And let me explain what I mean. See, typically on this ecology thing, what I've seen so far is the idea of shaming. You know what, you guys don't do anything, so therefore this river is gone. You guys are terrible, so see, you have taken care. How many times do you want me to get slapped to get into something? Can you, rather than that, motivate me into doing something? I'll just give an example. of doing something at scale, and which at one point in time we turned around and said people like us are not joining politics, right? Politicians were a different breed and we are a different breed. So he created a program called Lead India, if you remember, in 2007. Arguably, it has led to the birth of a party called UP. I'm not saying it's good or bad, huh? So I'm like, jury is out on that. But I'm saying at least it opened the door for very educated people to start coming into politics. Today, I mean, there used to be very few politicians who were very educated and they came from political family. Today, you know, like non-political family, very educated, you know, people with corporate background, people with administrative background are coming in. So which means you can have very large ambition and it's still, you can make something out of it. I think time has come, not just for one media house or another media house or another, to have a very ambitious plan for Bombay. I mean, what is our ecological ambition? We have an economic ambition, we all know. We want to be so-and-so trillion by so-and-so year, right? We all know that. What is our ecological ambition? Copenhagen says that they want to be, you know, carbon neutral by 2025. And they go tom-tom about it. You know, you read stuff about Portland and you see, you know, how they're inviting the industries to come and say, set up things in Portland and you know what? You will do a favor to the rest of America. These are defined ecological objective and target. We don't have any. To start with, can we even look at an ecological objective? And these are the kind of platforms which starts as a, you know, spark somewhere. And why 3 media organizations? All media organizations can come together. Today, especially news media organizations, still are getting very bright people who want to be journalists. That is actually the future of media. I mean, media gets, you know, bad-mouthed every time that we are the favorite bashing board for everybody. Agreed that the media cannot deny the share of whatever is happening in the society. But today, the most important thing about media organizations are very bright people want to become journalists, very, very bright people. You will not get a seat in that Columbia journalism school for love or for money. You know, like it's very difficult to get a seat. So which means real bright people are coming in. What are we doing to channelize these guys, these girls, to create something which sits between economy and ecology? You can always have an ambitious target and it can happen. We ran something called organ donation. Before that, I don't think organ donation was a conversation. Today, with every death, at least once the word is uttered, saying, have we done anything about organ donation? At least in educated families. So I'm saying, even with educated families, if every media platforms can come together and create an ecological ambition, which is not...
Do you have such an ambition?
We do have ambition. I mean, it's not a... this may not be the best forum to talk about it, but what I'm saying is creating an ambition and going after it is absolutely possible. We have shown it.
I think it's a great idea.
We have shown it before. I mean, it is possible. Educated people can come into politics. You can give your own time to teach children English. You know, Teach India today does more than 100,000 every year. You know, kids who had no access to education. You think it's shut? It's not shut. It's 100,000 people getting, minimum 100,000 people getting trained every year. So it's possible. It is possible. Only thing is, maybe platform like IMC can bring the media people together and we can do actionable stuff. Awareness ka din chala gaya, honestly speaking. You know, everybody is aware, everybody can talk 5 things about sustainability. ChatGPT can talk about 15 things about sustainability. So that's not the point. The point is there anything actionable possible? Because Bombay, Mumbai, whatever you call it, has come to a stage where literally pani naak tak aa gaya, wo mithi ka pani bhi ho sakta hai. But what I'm saying is the water has risen to a dangerous level. This is time for action, and action has to happen through a very consolidated platform. I mean, it may sound big. Believe you me, it happens. It happens if all the media brands come together and they push it. 100% it happens, and I think time has come for that.
Heartening to hear these words. And I'm sure 3 of these are at least signing up for this, right? Sure. Absolutely. So I don't think we have any time left for this. Oh, okay. Time's up.
Sorry.
I didn't see that. My apologies. But I must thank you. And the last point, the last point, of course, Abhishek will have always, he has the last say.
No.
But no, I'll just say one thing though. That I think Ram Gandhi ought to meet with all of you all once.
So Parthada, happy to, we surely awareness, times of awareness is beyond, we have to work beyond that. So at FPJ, we have started 2 small baby steps. We have started a sustainability shala. So idea is to take climate discussions to high school classrooms. And we are also doing sustainability walks where, probably ideas to, again, take youth to understand, our urban landscape and try to make a difference. So these some actionable points that we have, at least at FPJ we have started. Thank you.
Great stuff.
Thank you. It's a very, heartening thing to hear, I think. And it actually, fills me, with a lot of hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Ms. Jyoti Doshi, President IMC Ladies Wing, to present a memento to Mr. Abhishek Karnani as a token of her appreciation and gratitude. Ms. Jyoti Doshi. A loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. To Mr. Partha Sinha. And to Mr. Neeraj Roy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Let's now go on to see how we can achieve having a green city. And for that, we have Mr. Neelakanthan Iyer, a noted social impact assessor, consultant, and treasurer with Keshav Srishti, a well-known NGO. He will be addressing on urban forestry. Over to you, Mr. Iyer.
Good evening, everybody. Distinguished members, fellow speakers, and dear friends. Let me first thank IMC for inviting me to share my views on this subject. My views are based basically on the practical experience I had on implementing Miyawaki forest in Mumbai, Pune, Jalna, and Nashik. The need of the hour today is fighting climate change. India is committed to achieve net zero emission by 2070. Move towards clean energy is growing fast. The support from corporates, government is forthcoming in a big way. Use of solar energy is taking prominence. Each one of us as individuals, as corporates, should participate in this activity so as to give better future for the coming generation. Increasing the green belt is very urgent, especially in cities which are densely populated. Miyawaki is one of the methods to increase the same by making a forest in small stretch of land and quickly. So today I will speak about Miyawaki forest, which from Keshav Srishti we have done around 1 million square feet and around 100,000 saplings. On 4th of this month, for Bombay Chartered Accountant Association, we are making another 3,000 square feet. Let's first understand what is Miyawaki method. What did Akira Miyawaki say about it? Principle that native or traditional trees of a particular area has more capability of creating good and self-sustained ecosystem than the exotic foreign trees which are grown artificially on a particular area. What does it point out? It points towards the selection of native trees as compared to exotic trees. So what we do here is basically we don't get anything, any trees from any other place. It's native. If it is Maharashtra, it is native to Maharashtra. If it is Bombay, it is native to Bombay. Within Maharashtra, you have different zones where different types of trees are grown. So we'll select that. Now let's see who is Akira Miyawaki. Has anybody heard about Miyawaki forest here? Yes, many. Good. So he was born in 1928, a Japanese botanist and an ecologist. One of the foremost experts on forest ecology and responsible for spearheading the Miyawaki forest or planting forest, biodiverse forest. Largely driven through his learnings on potential natural vegetation and phytosociology, as per many authors, PNV is an imagined state of vegetation that would exist without the influence of man, that it is grows on its own. Miyawaki was also influenced by Shinjo no Mori, or a sacred forest surrounding Japanese Shino shrines and cemeteries, home to a variety of indigenous plants that played a key role in his studies. Armed with these findings and his own expertise, he developed his signature method of planting forest. Now let's understand what is Miyawaki forest. It is designed by Akira Miyawaki in 1980. These are urban forests grown using Miyawaki method. Technically, it can be grown in a small patch of land, and today all the cities are very densely populated. You hardly have any space. Many corporates come to me and say, "Hey boss, I want to have a Miyawaki forest. Can you find a place?" It's very difficult to find a place. So we shift beyond Bombay, we go to Palghar, we go to Jalna, so different places. The idea is the trees can be grown anywhere in the world. The effect is the whole world. So you don't have to say, I'm going to plant trees here, there, anywhere you do, it's basically an environment, it gives benefit. What is the importance of this is basically the native or local seeds of saplings are planted here. Plant community is an assemblage of plant individuals with mutual kinship among themselves and their environment. So what we do basically is we plant different saplings. Two different saplings will not be together. So each will have its own arrangement so that they don't eat away each other. And the unique feature is it grows very quickly. In 2 years' time it grows. And it's completely packed with trees. I will show you some photographs later on how it grows in 2 years or 3 years' time. Basically, it's ideal for cutted urban landscapes in city like we have done it in Andheri, we have done it in Malad, we have done it in Kandivali, we have done it in Air Force Station in Malad. So, though it is a city, we call it as a city dense forest. And the advantage of these plants are they grow upwards to the sunlight. And the biodiverse forest also attracts fauna like butterflies and bees that are beneficial for the ecosystem. This is what we have experienced ourselves. I will show you, I don't have time much, otherwise shared the report by TFRI, that is Tropical Forest Research Institute, where they have done study on our 38 forest and come out with a very positive report. The technique takes a lot of effort, such as leveling, plowing the soil, using fertilizer, compost, etc. All this makes process extremely fancy. What is Miyawaki method? Locating a land with minimum 1000 square feet. You can do less than that also, but it won't be so, it will be a bit expensive for you to do that. Well exposed to sunlight, preferably 8 to 10 hours of sunlight it needs. Leveling the land, preparation of soil so that its composition is ideal for growth. So wherever we have gone and done this, we find it that the land is not level, so we have to use poclane machines and then level the land. Initially during the survey, we find the soil is good, but after digging, we find that the soil is not good for that, so we have to use more compost. Manure or organic can be used to make this soil fertile. What basically we do is we create our own compost. We have a Gaushala. So the gobar is converted into compost and we use that compost, and we have done a test in a laboratory. So It's almost carbon content is 40%. So generally we use only half of the compost which you generally use for others. Choosing different varieties and native species of plant, ideally different species of plant should be placed together so that no two saplings of the same species are to be next to each other. We also do mulching so that weeds do not grow near the saplings. I'm not sure whether everybody knows what mulching is. Mulching is basically film which we put it on the plant so that the weeds do not grow. If weeds grows, then almost 70% of the nutrition is taken away by the weeds. So that's why we put mulching. The mulching film, there are two, what we do, then you will ask me, it is a plastic, what do you do? So after 2 years, we send it for recycling. So we have also done a recycling plant now where all types of plastic can be recycled. Or you also get compostable mulching, which is 4 to 5 times more expensive than the normal mulching. So this is just how the plantation has to be done. We have to regularly water the patch, so we have to use drip irrigation. So the watering has to be done for 2 to 3 years, that's all. After that, rain takes care of it. So first step is basically soil survey. Then you take out the native species and biomass survey. Then saplings, preparation and procurement. Then prepare the soil. Then plantation, mulching, and then it grows. After 3 years, it will become a dense forest and no further action is required. Generally, we involve the communities. Recently, we had a very good experience in Nashik, where as somebody said, the ladies are the best person today. So the ladies have taken care of that, and within, generally it grows in 2.5 years. In 1.5 years, we have got a very excellent result in Nashik. How do we do it? Day one, saplings are sowed. 3 years, it becomes a forest. So what generally goes in 100 years, it grows in 10 years. Advantages and precautions. In small patch, we can have a dense forest. Attracts butterflies and birds. Fruit grown are exclusively for birds. That is because it becomes so dense that it's a human being, it's very difficult for us to. But some people say make a pathway, so we also make a pathway if you want to do something. It helps the ecology. Reduction in temperature near the vicinity, that is TFRI had done a complete study of our 40, we have done almost 42 forests from Mumbai, Nashik, Pune and Jalna. And the result is very positive, 0.58% to 2 degrees the temperature is down. Regular maintenance is required maximum for 3 to 4 years, not even that sometimes. How it helps is it also helps water conservation. These roots, it goes deep, so the rainwater doesn't go to the sea, stays there itself. So indirectly, supposing you find you have a borewell near this area, after 5 years you will find the borewell has more water. So what precautions you have to do? Basically take care of the forest for next 3 years. We generally ask the local community to adopt because we as an NGO, we cannot be there for a longer time. So we hand it over to them, and last 7 years we have found out that it is extremely good. Monitoring the forest involves watering it at regular intervals, cleaning the weeds, plastics, maintaining proper drainage, maintain the mulch level, keep changing it for 1 year. They must not trim the forest, use chemical pesticide or fertilizer, and clean the shed leaves. Here I will just say we tried an experiment with Air Force Station in Malad. They wanted to have this thing, but we had a lot of constraints. Basically, they have radars. If you see the Mud Island, they have radars, so the trees cannot grow beyond that height. So we had to get trees which do not grow. Their growth maturity is a lower stage. So those trees, we can prune it a little bit. And we are given the job, being our Air Force, they do a wonderful job. We don't have to do anything, they take care of it very well. In fact, it was done last Rakhi day. So this Rakhi, we are going to again go and tie Rakhis to them. And it's a wonderfully it has come out. To sum it up, Miyawaki method helps create a self-sustaining vegetation within 3 to 4 years, where the traditional procedure may take 100 years. I'll show you some photographs. we have done in Borivali. This was planted in 2019. This is what is in 2024. We have done in National Park. In 2020 it was like this. 2024 it is. So these are the photographs we have done. We are in Jalna. We have been given a hilltop, 100 acres of land. So we have started doing. Some of our corporates are doing that. This is done in Ismail Yusuf College, and we are going to have the next on the 4th of them. Finally, I would say at little bit about Keshav Shrishti. We use discharge of gobar plant and blend it with farm waste, kitchen waste and floral waste of temples to make it a highly quality compost, making our city forest completely circular in nature. That means we have a Gaushala, the first gobar goes to plants, to the kitchen, we have a school there, the next goes to fields, and the balance goes to the compost. So the full cow, everything is utilized by us. Then the carbon content when we tested, it was very high. So we only use 50% of the compost what we use generally. Then finally, we also collect floral waste during festivals, mix it with gobar, and we have started a agarbatti which is 99.9% I can say organic. And the task has been given to the Adivasis in Uttan. You will find in Uttan there are Adivasis. So it has created an employment for them. We have sold almost 10,000 packets of that generally, and we are going to sell during this. It's always on, but during the festival, the business is small. We would like everyone to be an eco-warrior for a sustainable future. So this is the plantation which we have done in Keshav Shrishti. This is 4 years old. You can see how dense it is. I don't know whether we have time for, we don't have time, otherwise you can see this Bhuj Smriti one. This is done in Bhuj in 21, inaugurated by our Prime Minister. So how it has grown in last 5 years, 10 years, you can see that. So this is basically what I just thank everybody to give me 10 minutes time. We can talk more about that technically, but maybe future we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iyer. Before you leave, may, as a token of our appreciation and respect, may I request Ms. Jyoti Doshi, President, IMC Ladies Wing, to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Iyer. Thank you, Ms. Doshi and Mr. Iyer. Ladies and gentlemen, having heard about greening Mumbai with urban forestry, now let's move on to a very interesting subject, wastewater recycling and management, something that every industry representative would be keen to know about. And to tell us more about this, we have Ms. Anjali Parasnis, who is the Regional Associate Director for the Energy Resources Institute of TERI from the past 16 years. Some of her projects included developing a robust Maharashtra state plan for climate change and a biodiversity action plan for coastal Maharashtra. She is now technical coordinator with 2030 WRG, an initiative hosted at the World Bank. She has received national and international accolades for her projects with multiple partners to demonstrate the safer reuse of treated wastewater in agriculture. Over to you, Ms. Parasnis.
Can I get a mobile? Hi, good evening, everyone. Ramesh ji, who actually invited me, and thank you very much. We have a very long-standing association with IMC, my previous speakers, and all the dignitaries over here. Bittu ji, and he also knows me for a very long time. So today I'm trying to, cover up some things, some experiences. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the data because we all can just get it on Google and several other platforms. So I'm going to just share some of my views. So although I'm associated with very large and prestigious organizations, maybe you can regard these views as my own views, but taking the experience from the projects that I have implemented. So as you can see, this is the picture I have taken, but this is not what I see Mumbai as, because if we do not have mangroves, if we do not have flamingos, the salt pans, the forests, the trees, around this city, then definitely that is not the future that we want to see. And we will be seeing this if we do not have this insurance, assurance, and resilience. So each one of us sitting in this room, we have some insurance, LIC or this policy or that policy. But have we ever thought about insurance for our city, its infrastructure, its biodiversity, its leopards, maybe the trees? We don't. We have to think differently about it. We have to think about the assurance. What about the water? What about the food? In last 25 years, we have seen two calamities, and I would call it as mostly man-made calamities. One is, of course, the flood that we all are aware of, and the second is, of course, the pandemic. And we have learned, or we rather have to learn lessons. But here I'm also very glad to see that there is a free press journal and a lot of fraternity from the community segment, So because communication in this regard is also very, very important, and I'm sure Bittuji would definitely agree with me on this. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about this insurance, assurance, and resilience. And I'm just going to tell you two stories and a dream of mine. So that is why I said that mostly you regard this as my own experiences. Now, I would like to start with this one story, and what you're seeing here is the land use and land cover model for parts of Western Ghats. So when we talk about solid waste or we talk about treated wastewater, the first question, the organizations that I represent, we deal with multiple stakeholders, okay, starting from government, it could be industries, it could be research, academia, common people, the farmers, and everywhere the question is, okay, where are we going to do this? Where are we going to do the tree plantation, like the previous speaker said? Where are we going to use this wastewater? So here, this is, the first story starts from here. Does it have a pointer? As you can see, this is a land use, land cover model and parts of Western Ghats. Now, interestingly, if you see, these are the two cities. If you could recognize the smaller blob, what you see is Pune city. And the upper top red one is Mumbai city. And if you see, in 1998, the cities were a little bit smaller. And you go to 2012, the cities are expanding. Pune is also expanding, Mumbai is also expanding. All of you who have visited Mumbai and Pune, earlier there used to be a distinction. We would leave Mumbai, the farms would start, the hut would start, and it would be very beautiful. Now, if you travel on Mumbai-Pune highway, you hardly see that distinction. The entire biodiversity almost we have lost. So in our college days, we used to go to Lonavala to collect samples. The flora and the fauna, but if we go now, we just see maybe Pepsi and the plastic bottles lying here and there. So the biodiversity is lost. Now, I would also like to show you this for a very important reason. If in 2005 you see, there is one small opening, a cup shaped thing, and that is Borivali National Park. And 2012, if you see that small green dot is a national park. And Mr. Sehgal would be able to actually tell us more about it. But when in 2005, that cup was open, the leopards could cross the Sanjay Gandhi National Park and go to the other forest areas, which is their natural instinct. And that is what they have to do. But because we have so much of infrastructure now in 2012, they cannot cross over, and that is why so many of them are dying, and there is so much of impact on the biodiversity. So our cities are increasing, and day by day the peri-urban area is also coming in the urban areas. So when we talk to people, it is like seeing is believing. If I show this picture, it speaks volumes. People understand that, okay, we are only enclosing that forest now by the infrastructure. We are not letting the leopards cross that forest from one area to the other. So it's seeing is believing is important, and showing to believe is also very important. And that is what I'm coming to. Like, when we show this and say that, okay, when the cities are increasing, obviously the wastewater is going to increase the volume that we have overload. Also the solid waste. And where is it going to go? We need a buffer zone. We need some peri-urban area to absorb all these shocks. These are all shocks for the environment, the air quality, the particulate matter. So some of the things, whatever we generate, some of the things we only have to face. For example, the particulate matter. Okay, so we are burning something over here and we are only inhaling that. And some of the things like the wastewater, it has to go travel to some distance. And I'll come to that little later. So the cities are basically, they are generating something called as urban heat island impact. And the cities are 3 to 10 degrees hotter compared to the rural areas or the peri-urban areas. But based on the first slide that I showed, you will all agree that the cities are expanding at such a great speed that we are hardly living any rural peri-urban area which can absorb the shocks of the city. Now, why is it not? This is a very interesting slide, and as I promised, this is one story I want to tell, and how communication is very important. I have learned a lot of lessons while explaining this slide, and I'll tell you how. One of the earlier chief ministers of Maharashtra, he had called us to give a presentation. And in that presentation, this is the MMR, Mumbai Metropolitan Region, and we were developing some plan for MMR. And we showed this slide very enthusiastically saying that, sir, this yellow part is the built-up area. And rest all, there is a lot of wasteland that is getting created, agricultural land is diminishing, forest areas are getting shrunk. So this is what the message we wanted to give. But after seeing this, there were a lot of people in that room, some ministers, very senior government officials, they got very excited and they said, oh, only this much is built up? That means we have, a lot of scope to have more buildings and bring more area under, construction. And we got, we were really shocked. And we said, okay, just wait for 10 minutes, we'll come back to you. Then we went out and, we developed something like this inverted pyramid. So see how communication is so important. After showing him some data and statistics in this pattern, that with this much of area, we are having so much of solid waste, so much of liquid waste, so much of pollution, that if you bring all this area and make it yellow, you cannot imagine how much of solid waste and wastewater we are going to generate, and what are we going to do with that. So, the communication has to be proper. This is what we learned in a very hard way. But even after this, I don't see a lot of difference or a lot of policy instruments being implemented to maintain this forest, to maintain the agriculture area also. And I'll tell you how. Okay, so we are putting a lot of pressure on biodiversity on agricultural land. To the extent that, see, there are all these in coastal areas, there are people who were dependent upon the rice varieties which are cultivated specifically in these coastal areas. Do you know that we have lost more than 2,500 species or varieties of rice which were specific for this coastal area, okay? So we have lost those varieties. Not only that, it has also impacted the livelihood for the people, the local people over here, and the food security for them. Because they are fisher folk, they would get the fish from the sea, they used to cultivate the rice in this area, and that they were happy, because the food security component was taken care of. Now what has happened, because of all this urbanization, there is a lot of fallow land that is getting generated. We are losing biodiversity at a much greater pace than we had expected. Leaving all these wastelands, as soon as the fallow land is there, it is regarded in the land use land pattern as a fallow land, wasteland, and immediately the builders can claim it. So that yellow patches, what you have seen in earlier slide, are really going to get expanded, and that is going to have some impact on our forest as well as the agricultural land. And I think we need to think, when we think about Mumbai and its future, we have to think about all these aspects, because in a human body, we are really absorbing so many things. Not only the particulate matter, even the microplastic, the pesticides, the herbicides, and everything. And how are we going to also take care of it? So just like we need, at a city level, we need buffer for human health and maintaining ourselves also, we would be requiring some kind of a mechanism. So just see how much of agriculture area we have already lost, and that is really a cause of concern. So there are so many things that we really need to take care of when we say that, okay, we want to make Mumbai a future ready. Basically, impacts on human health, food quality and food security. Like I mentioned, there is so much of microplastic that is going into our diet. Every fish that is caught in and around Mumbai, it has more than 3,000 particles of microplastic. And there is CIFE, Central Institute of Fishery Education, the institute near Worli, and they have done a lot of research on this. And the statistics is really alarming. So when we talk about city, I think the food security is also very important. Of course, we know about the green cover, circularity of resources, that is what I'm talking about, and the wastewater, again very, very important because it gets generated here, but there is always a question mark about how are we going to treat it and where are we going to use it. So I think we need to have some buffer area around us so that the wastewater can be maybe taken away from the city into the peri-urban area, the buffer area, and we can grow some very simple vegetables. So, you know, as one of the exercises, what we did is, a simple vegetable like tomato, you know, and how much do we need it? So per capita consumption is considered as 77 kgs. It can be 77 to 100 also, but just we have taken one number. And population of MMR we have considered as around 24 million. So Mumbai's requirement for tomato will be 1800 million kgs. Okay, per year. And for getting that, we have considered two distances, like 200 and 500 kilometers. So 200 is around, say, Palghar area, and 500 kilometers is, say, Nasik and Pune and Baramati, in that area. But if you see, the emission levels are really phenomenal. So just for getting one commodity, from 200 and 500 kilometers, the carbon footprint is so high. So many tempos, so many trucks need to come into our city. That increases the traffic. That increases the particulate matter. We need to have so much of infrastructure. But why can't we just think of, you know, using our treated wastewater around in the peri-urban area, create a buffer zone, and maybe these simple things which are more perishable, like leafy vegetables, maybe the tomatoes, we can grow around in that area. That will also provide livelihood opportunities for the youth. We can maybe conserve some of the local germplasm here, and also create a buffer zone around our city to absorb our wastewater and the solid waste, of course, because around it's a huge number of biodegradable waste is also generated in Mumbai. We can very easily convert it into compost and use it and try to have a safer and a better food for us. So there is always a water, food, energy nexus. That is what will give us sustainability. Now, while we're talking about sustainability, this is a very interesting map. It shows that if we have a flood to the extent of, say, 2005, so that is the baseline we have considered, and see how many areas can get flooded. So we hardly, you know, take a look at this, think back and sit back and think about, okay, what will happen if there is another flood? What will happen if there is another pandemic? We just take everything for granted. Even after the pandemic and after suffering for two years, which is just, you know, few months back, still I don't think we have really learned lessons. So it's important for us when we think about Mumbai, we have to think about everything. We have to think about how are we going to conserve our soil, the biodiversity, the food, the water, and of course, our safety and security. So insurance is there for our own selves as well as for our city. Now, coming to the dream part, I think we have lost the titles, but I'll just read it. Like, when we think about monitoring, we have done this assessment for the state of Maharashtra, like how many monitoring stations are there on the river. If you see the Mithi River, which was mentioned by almost each and every speaker before me, Mithi River has only one monitoring station. Okay, and we know how polluted the river is, but there is only one monitoring station. As compared to that, the Seine River, which is in France, and right now as we speak, the Olympics are being held over there. There are 3 monitoring stations, all in very polluted as well as populated area, and that is how they keep monitoring it. And see, now they could organize the Olympics over there. So when I said there are 2 stories and 1 dream, so this is my dream, and I think when all powerful people are sitting here. So it shouldn't be impossible to think that maybe 2036 when we have Olympics, maybe we should also have some competitions held in our Mithi river, just like the Seine river in France. So that is my dream, and for doing that, definitely we will have to treat a lot of wastewater from industries, from our surface runoff, from the urban areas, and also really think about how we can beautify it. And if we can do that, I think through this Olympics, France has really given a very strong message that if we all work together, then definitely it is possible to restore the natural beauty and the natural status of the rivers and the wetlands. And I think for Mumbai, it is so important, all these flood maps which I have shown, and the aerial views that I have shown, I think that will definitely help you convince. And there is a lot that I can talk about the wastewater and the solid waste and the planning, but I'll stop here only with my dream, and I hope that in 2036 we really have Olympics here in Mumbai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we look forward to having the Olympics here. Thank you, Ms. Parasnis. Before we leave, as a token of our appreciation and respect, may I request Mr. Ram Gandhi, Governor and past President, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to present a token of appreciation. Yeah, can you stand up? Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Parasnis and Mr. Gandhi. So, why is rural sustainability important to us?
Ramesh, thank you very much for this, and this reminds me of the Lighting a Billion Lives project which we have done with you. So, much appreciated. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So, why is rural sustainability important to us? To answer this important question, we have with us Ms. Pratibha Pai, the co-founder of Chirag Rural Development Foundation. This amazing NGO has provided solar electrification across over 820 villages in 11 states, touching the lives of more than 180,000 people in a span of 14 years. Project Chirag works with youth in India and across the world to involve them in the mission of spreading light and transforming lives. Pratibha finds the time to consult, train, volunteer with other NGOs and pursue her first love, teaching. She is a visiting faculty at postgraduate institutions in Mumbai. She has been the winner of the prestigious Olive Crown Award for the Green NGO of the Year multiple times, along with the National NGO Award, the Angel of Mumbai Award, and many other awards added on to the line of her awards. Can we have you on stage? The Batti Wali Bai, Pratibha Pai. Over to you, Ms. Pai.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I've been moving with titles like Batti Wali Bai, Pani Wali Bai, all kinds of Bai. At home, I'm, of course, the regular Bai. Yeah, but thank you very much, IMC, for bringing rural sustainability at the very core of this conversation of how to make Mumbai future ready. Good evening, and you heard a lot about how to make Mumbai sustainable. But I want to talk about Mumbai because it is the city of dreams. 6,328 square kilometers is how large metropolitan Mumbai is. Larger than 40 countries, including Singapore and Bahrain. But not large enough to keep up with the city's rapid growth and the increasing pressure of its migrant population over the past few decades. Of course, the census is an old census, but as per 2011 census, Mumbai MMR has a population of over 24 million, of which over 46 lakhs are interstate migrants. And over 43 lakhs are intrastate migrants. from which 43 to 44 lakhs, 50% would be rural migrants within Maharashtra. Why does rural migration take place in the first place? Rural migration is caused by poverty, food insecurity, and the lack of year-long livelihood opportunities. I think if we want to be a future-ready city, it's not about being smart, but it's also about being resilient. All my co-speakers have spoken about resilience. Smart cities are a reality. Of course, it goes beyond technology adoption. We've got great infrastructure coming up. But what about the foundation for human resilience for all our population? To be truly resilient in the face of predictable and unpredictable challenges and adapt to these fast changing social and economic situations. And I think the lessons that are coming into Mumbai for resilience are coming in from the edges of the city of Mumbai and even beyond from the rural areas. Let me share with you a short 1-minute video to just put things in context. Can we have the video 1, please? Thank you. When I started working in the rural areas in 2010, as my co-speaker Rajesh had talked about water being an issue and coming from 120, 130 kilometers, we went out with a team of our Project Chirag, and I was shocked to learn about the acute power and water issues that the villagers faced. All of them were dependent on rain-fed farming, and they lived for the 4 months in their village, migrated post-monsoons to come and live in dismal conditions in the slums in cities like Mumbai. These are villages which surround the Vaitarna river, and that river supplies water to our city. Unfortunately, it was a classic case of water everywhere, not a drop to drink, because if these villagers went down to the river or to the dam to get water, they were told, ye water Mumbai ke liye hai. So when I went the first time to villages in that region, I was looked upon with so much suspicion and doubt, and they said, Mumbai se aaye ho, aapse kaam nahi karna hai. And I had to really build that connect with them to start working. You might say 14 years down the line, things must have changed. Yes, of course. We read reports about how India is 100% electrified. Let me just share with you the definition of what is electrified. If a village has 10% of its power needs fulfilled, it is deemed electrified. I would hate to imagine what happened to all the beautiful houses down A Road or down Veer Nariman Road if IMC building had its power and that was 10% and the whole street is electrified. Would we in Mumbai have accepted that? And the answer is a definitive no. So what we decided was that we would do our bit with clean energy to see that rural landscapes remained green throughout the year with solar-powered lift irrigation, solar home lights, street lights, and that schools ran on solar energy so that there was no burden on family or school incomes. And of course, if the impact in the rural areas was good, it would have an impact on the urban areas too. We wanted to empower these rural citizens so as to prevent forced migration. and ensure that we never see those images again that we saw during COVID-19 of the reverse migration. Those images still haunt our minds if we go back to them. Why did the reverse migration happen? Because we threw them out of here. But why did they come here in the first place? Because they didn't have enough to do in their homes. And this is important because these village farmers supply us in Mumbai city our raw materials, our vegetables, our fruits, our industries and our corporates, like all present here, employ them. And not to mention all our rural homes, all our homes have rural help working with us. So it is our responsibility to ensure that there is equity at the center of climate action and greening. At some point, I think all of us have felt that climate change and environment, does it really affect me? Bittu said the time for dialogue is over, the time for action is now. It takes me back to a couple of decades ago when I read a life insurance ad written by a friend present here, which said, it can't happen to me. We didn't think it was required to take insurance 20, 30 years back. We used to feel, humko to kuch nahi hone wala hai. Whereas today, climate action also, some people might think, how am I affected? Look at the heat waves. Look at the kind of health risks that are coming up. Vector-borne diseases are going up. Inland flooding. Wayanad is a case in point. Kerala, Northeast is flooded. Look at what's happening. On the other hand, there's acute water shortage in certain areas. Poor AQIs, crop failures. Today, if we don't see that our rural populace is sustained in a nice way, then they are not going to be able to crop for us. We are not going to get the produce. I think every housewife and house husband should be worrying about the tomato prices, the garlic prices. All that is because of the crop failures. And that is why rural sustainability is so important for Mumbai. One of the things we have noticed in our small efforts in rural India is the fact that when we give solar water irrigation, solar pump lifting, if June 6th is the date that monsoons are normally expected, the people start tilling their land and preparing for paddy farming. But if the rains are delayed, as they have been in the last so many years, our pumps pull up the water and the paddy is planted. So the transplantation takes place 3 to 4 weeks later, by which time the rains come and the flood happens, which is good. So our villagers are not suffering because they are waiting for that first shower to plant the initial paddy. We need to improve these rural lives in a sustainable way and help our rural citizens lead a life of dignity in their own homes. No need to migrate, tilling their own land, and all this on the pivot of clean solar energy. Tackling these shared challenges needs to be about this kind of inclusive development. All over the globe, as in our city, climate disasters, resource depletion, and uncertainty are changing how we do business. And business today and the future of business is sparked by the sustainability imperative. So what can we do living in the urban megapolis Mumbai? Sustainable living is a way of life that aims to reduce one's environmental impact and promote social justice. And while all the esteemed speakers today have shared what we are doing in Mumbai, I invite all of you all present here and all the members of IMC and the ladies wing to come to what a friend refers to as the Bharat that India forgot in its developmental journey. Join us at Project Chirag. There's much we can do in rural India to enrich the lives of our rural families and in the process enrich our own. Please allow us to organize a small trip for all of you all. I started with a quick video to show you the dismal condition. Let me end on a positive note with another short 1-minute video. 1 minute more, I'll be extending.
मेरा नाम परशुराम यशवंत टबरे है। मैं पाटिलपाड़ा गांव में रहता हूं और लोग ज़रूर सोचते होंगे कि पानी न होने के कारण मैं खेती नहीं कर पाता और मैं बेरोज़गार हूं।
मेरा नाम भाग्यश्री गुरुनाथ गावित है और मैं सुखसाई गांव में रहती हूं। सबको लगता होगा कि मेरी पूरी ज़िंदगी सिर्फ अपने घर के लिए पानी भरने में ही निकल जाती होगी।
मेरा नाम हनुमंत माहले है और मैं साकरशेत गांव में रहता हूं। सबको लगता है कि मैं अपने लिए कुछ नहीं कर पाया तो दूसरों के लिए क्या कर पाऊंगा।
मेरा नाम आरक्षणा राठौड़ है और मैं झड़पी स्कूल सावरोली में पढ़ती हूँ। उन्हें लगता होगा कि मेरे घर वाले मुझे बहुत समझकर मेरी शादी जल्द से जल्द करवा देंगे और पढ़ने लिखने का तो कोई सवाल ही नहीं उठता।
आज मेरी इतनी कमाई है कि मेरे घर का मोगरा सिर्फ मेरे घर में नहीं, आपके घर में भी पहुंचता है। आज मेरी इतनी कमाई है कि अपनी बेटी को शहर इंजीनियरिंग करने भेजूंगा।
मैं भी किसान हूँ, मेरी भी सब्जी बिकती है। सोच रही हूँ कि अब मैं भी ऑनलाइन सब्जी बेचना सीखूं।
क्योंकि मुझे इस बदलाव से लाभ हुआ है, अब मैं चाहता हूँ कि मैं अपने लोगों की मदद करके उनके जीवन में भी परिवर्तन लेकर आऊँ, क्योंकि वापस देने से बढ़कर कोई खुशी नहीं है।
बड़े होकर मुझे शहर में जाकर पढ़ना है और बड़ी कंपनी में काम करना है। आज ये मेरी सच्चाई है।
I must put a little caveat here because I have my colleague staring at me, making faces, saying these two videos were prepared just at 1:30 this afternoon. They were completed. They are unreleased and I've taken permission of my boss to show it here. So please bear with that. Thank you so much. And like I said, come be a part of this journey. Come join us. It will elevate your spirits as much as it elevates that of the rural population. That young boy you saw in that film is a boy whose school, boarding school, we had given solar lights to in 2011. And he was so impacted by it, when he figured we are working in that area, he came up to us and asked for an employment opportunity. And today he is bringing about the transformation in so many schools and villages because he says, "Mujh mein itna, meri zindagi mein itna badlav aaya hai. So why can't I be an agent of change?" So I think that's the switch we are seeing in the news story. Thank you, IMC.
Thank you, Ms. Pai. Before you leave, as a token of our appreciation, may I request Mr. Ramesh Narayan to kindly present a token of memento to Ms. Pai. Thank you, Ms. Pai and Mr. Narayan. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, embracing sustainability, may I request that we play the AV that Mr. Ramesh had earlier mentioned. Kindly play the AV.
पाया है लौटाना है, सबने मिलकर ठाना है, जिस धरती ने दिया है हमको उसको अब लौटाना है। भूमि नमस्कार, भूमि नमस्कार। आने वाले पल से कैसे हम कह पाएंगे, समझ न पाए जिम्मेवारी कैसे हम समझाएंगे। हमको मिलकर एक साथ अब अपना फर्ज निभाना है, अगर धरती से है
अगर धरती से है प्यार तो करो भूमि नमस्कार.
On this World Environment Day, let us all pledge that we do whatever we are able to do to help our Mother Earth sustain herself for future generations. अगर धरती से है प्यार, करो भूमि नमस्कार.
So, okay, now it's time to move on from rural India to the world at large. And we have with us a young star who literally cools the globe. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Prachi Shevgaonkar is a climate innovator and the founder of Cool the Globe, an app for climate action with users from over 110 countries. She has been awarded as the Young Changemaker of the Year by the Finance Minister of India. She was the first ever recipient of the Young Green Crusader Award at the Olive Crown Awards. She is also the youngest Indian to be appointed on the advisory board of Climate Leadership Coalition along with the Prime Minister of Finland. She represented India at the COP27, where she accepted the COP27 Scholar Award from the Environment Minister of India. She is a founding member of the Global Youth Council with the President of Colombia and Nobel Peace Laureate John Manuel Santos, formed to address existential threats to the global community. Prachi's campaigns have reached 25 million people. Now let's listen to her talking about cooling the globe. Prachi, the stage is all yours and cool it.
Hello. How many of us speak Marathi? Can understand Marathi today? Okay, good. So there's a saying in Marathi that you might have heard. It goes like, Shivaji janmava dusracha ghari, which is, let a change maker be born, but in somebody else's home. And I was reminded of this saying again because last week I met some remarkable school children who are all very passionate about sustainability, who all wanted to build careers in sustainability. And we had a wonderful interaction. They were just buzzing with ideas, startups, campaigns on how do we solve climate change. Now their parents were also there in the audience. And one of the parents asked a question which was on everybody's mind. And this is a question I get asked time and again by frantic parents. Can you guess what the question is? Yes, something similar, which is my son or my daughter is extremely passionate about sustainability, wants to make a career in this. How is he going to earn money? And that's a question that I've got asked again and again by parents. Now, we have only 30 years to avoid the worst effects of climate change. If you want to make that happen, the brightest minds in the world, the most intelligent, the most enthusiastic young people should be working on solving this problem. And if that is to happen, sustainability should not just be the right thing to do, it should also become the profitable thing to do. And a career in sustainability should also become a lucrative career choice to have. And if there is anybody who can make that happen, it's all of us in this room today. 4 years ago, when nobody had even heard about Cool the Globe or the work we were doing, Ramesh Narayan sir supported us. And he hates when anybody mentions these things, but the small boost he gave us made a bigger impact than I'm sure even he realizes. Bittu sir has inspired a whole generation of young people to become passionate about sustainability. So all of us today in this room find ourselves in a very unique position in that all of us in this room have power. As leaders of this city, we have the power to make a difference. And so today, I want to tell you all a story of my building a career in climate action and our journey of building an app and an enterprise for climate change in the hopes that together we can all create an ecosystem where more and more such careers can thrive. So I remember when I was a young student hearing for the first time about the catastrophic effects of climate change and the role I was playing in it. And it bothered me. I remember going to my father and asking him, what can an ordinary girl like me do about a big problem like climate change? And at that time, climate change seemed like this large problem beyond my control. What could I do about it? And so we decided to start from our own homes. We took up a challenge to reduce our personal carbon footprint by just 10% that year. And 10% would mean taking 3 or 4 small sustainable actions in a month. So I started looking at what are the different climate actions I could take, from recycling the plastic at home to segregating waste to looking at my food choices, looking at how I was traveling. Some simple actions I began taking. And I realized that if I wanted to continue on this journey, I had to be able to measure the impact of my actions, because we can only change what we can measure. And so I started researching on how do I quantify the avoided emissions behind the small sustainable actions we can all take in our day-to-day lives. And as I started doing that, 2 very interesting things happened. The first one was that I began to enjoy it. It almost became like a fun game I was playing with my family, and it felt good that at least at my own level, I was doing something. And maybe because I was enjoying it so much, my friends, neighbors, batchmates, people around me began to take notice. And they started coming to me saying, you're doing something interesting, and we would like to be a part of this mission with you. And that's when I started thinking, how do I take this individual quest and get global citizens to join me in it? And from this, we came up with the idea for Cool the Globe app, an app which would unite citizens like you and I to start taking climate actions in our day-to-day lives. Now, how it would work is as soon as a user would come in, they'd get a monthly target to reduce their carbon footprint. How many of you track the calories in your food? Okay, a couple of people, good. But I'm sure a lot of us now know more or less what the calories in our food are. We know that pizza has more calories than a roti. So we started thinking, what if the same way we know the calories in our food, can we know the emissions behind our actions and the avoided emissions behind our sustainable actions? So people would come on the app, record their climate action across hundreds of different areas, and quantify the emissions that they're avoiding by doing that. But what difference can one person make? We believe that when a lot of people like us come together to start taking small actions, then our collective impact can be extraordinary. And to show that, we kept a global meter on the homepage of the app, which will show the emissions saved by all users combined. Now, I built the app from the dorm room of my college, and by the time I graduated, it was ready to launch. But at that time, I wasn't aware that it's possible to make a career in sustainability. I didn't know that it's possible to do that. I wasn't aware that there are people like you who would support initiatives like these. And so I remember having a discussion with my parents, and I asked them for a year to make it happen. I borrowed a year from them, and I told them, let me give this my best shot, and if at the end of the year we can't do anything of it, I'll just take up a traditional job. And so throughout that year, what we started doing is, we realized that we've launched the app. Now the real work is in convincing people that in the face of climate change, our actions matter and we can make a difference. So we started making some very small video campaigns on what the ordinary citizens can do about climate change. Now we shared it with people who had helped us build the app. I shared it with my friends. They shared it with some more. And before we knew it, millions of people around the world were watching our campaigns for climate action. People like you started coming on the app, started recording their simple, sustainable behaviors. I remember, one person said that I've recently, he was a 40-year-old, had a very busy life, but he had decided to make fitness a part of his life. So he started going to his office on a cycle instead of a car and recorded saving 100 kg of CO2 emissions by doing this for 6 months. Another person called me and said that she was an 86-year-old woman. She said, I can't do much, I can't move around much, but I still want to do something to be a part of this movement. and her granddaughter was getting married. So she decided to reuse her own sari from her wedding to the granddaughter's wedding and recorded saving 15 kg of CO2 emissions on the app by doing this. So we saw how one action like this inspired 10 others and created a ripple effect for change. Before we knew it, we had millions of people, citizens from 150 countries like you coming on the app. And today, as I speak to you, we've crossed 1 lakh users who've collectively saved 5 million kg greenhouse gas emissions on the app. And this is just the beginning. So as individuals started using the platform, a lot of organizations began coming to us saying, you're doing this for individuals, but we'd love to make our employees a part of this. Same way, a lot of our users said, I'm taking this action, but now I want to take this action with my colleagues, with my batchmates, with my community. And we realized that the power of climate action is in community impact. And so the next vision for Cool the Globe app is that we're building communities on the app so that every organization, every city, school, college, even IMC can have their own community for climate action where we throw challenges for our members. People come and take action. We have collective targets as a community. If I have taken an action, I can go and see who else in my chapter is taking the most green actions, and there can be a healthy competition between people. We have a leaderboard on the app which would allow us to recognize and award people who are making sustainability a part of their lives. I think my favorite part of this journey and the work that I do has been that since the beginning of starting Cool the Globe, I've experienced people going beyond transactions and just offering heartfelt support. And I think it's almost magical to experience that people want to be a part of this movement. And so what are the ways you can be involved? I think the most important thing you can do is, decide one sustainable action that you're going to take from today and tell 10 other people about it. Tell 10 other people about our movement, because it truly is a citizen-led movement. You can get your organization, your community, your chamber of commerce, your club to be a part of Cool the Globe and create sort of a dashboard and a climate action movement in your communities. And most importantly, I think, you can make sustainability a part of your lives. Tell your families. You can become a patron for Cool the Globe and support us in bringing climate action into schools. So I think at the beginning of my journey, I'd read somewhere that it's going to take a miracle to avoid the worst effects of climate change. But I've experienced that if there's anything who can make miracles happen, it's all of us. So just because you've listened to me for 10 minutes now, you're a part of Cool the Globe's journey and movement. I'm happy. I'm happy that I got to share our journey so far with you. But the most important thing is that it's just the beginning. The next leg of our journey we have to do together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Prachi. Before you leave, as a token of our appreciation and respect, may I request Mr. Ramesh Narayan to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Prachi. As informed earlier, all the mementos are certificates in the speaker's name that IMC would light up one remote rural home with 2 solar lamps. Thank you, Ms. Prachi and Mr. Narayan. Plastics. The word has acquired an almost frightening image in the world of sustainability. But is the problem really so bad, and is there any way to avoid the use of plastics? To shed light on this subject, we have with us Ms. Karuna Singh, Regional Director Asia, EarthDay.org, the largest environmental movement in the world. EarthDay.org created and organized the first Earth Day in 1970, and since then have been mobilizing over 1 billion people every year to protect the planet. Ms. Singh, thank you for flying down from Kolkata to address our august audience here. The stage is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, IMC, particularly Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Narayan. I'm privileged to be here. And at the end of the day, whatever had to be said has been said, but I'll put in a little twist. So as she said, I'm with Earth Day Network, which began with the first Earth Day 54 years back. And today, oops, that is our legacy of working in over 190 countries with partners. We don't believe in having offices all over, but we believe that we have to work with partners, with those on the ground, with those who have more knowledge than us, those who are sensitive to the needs of the others around them, rather than bring in knowledge from outside. So the theme, every year we announce the Earth Day theme, and the Earth Day theme for 2024 was Planet versus Plastics, where we want people to reduce the production of plastics, reduce the consumption of plastics, and to look for technologies that would be replacements. Earth Day Network in India, that is what we do. We do a variety of things that include reaching out to women farmers of the first generation who are managers. We look at renewable energy, we look at climate education, which is very important to us. We look at the green canopy, how to increase it, how to reduce plastic, of course, and how to go in for waste management. So coming to Mumbai, that is the amount of plastic that Mumbai generates daily. Not in a year, not in a week, but every day. Oops, it's going back. It's okay here, but there it's going back. Okay. So that is the amount of plastic that Mumbai generates, plastic waste that Mumbai generates daily. And much of this is left strewn around. It is not recycled. I should actually not use the word recycled, but downcycled, because plastic can't be recycled. It has to be downcycled. And downcycling only happens once or twice. After that, it is just there to pollute our earth for generations and generations. So since I'm in the financial capital of India, I'm going to move my presentation, because Bittu Sehgal said, whatever activists had to do has been done. Others said whatever had to be said has been said. So now let's look through the binoculars of money. Money, which is important to each one of us. Is there anybody here who denies that money is important to them? I think there might be just 0.5% people in the world who say we are beyond money. But otherwise, money is important to a certain degree to all of us. So looking at Mumbai's main activities, this is the Koli community that is very involved in fishing, as you know. And look at the plastic that is strewn around, or look at the plastic that goes into dumps. Two of the major dumps are close to the coast or close to water bodies. What is happening? This plastic is leaching into them. The fish is getting infected. Nobody is going to buy that fish. The plastic in the water is also killing the spawns, because fish go into these plastic bags that might have some food in it. They get entrapped in it, and there's a reduction in the amount of plastic around. So think of what is going to happen to their livelihood, money. Think of it that way. Look to the Koli community. How are they going to suffer unless we reduce our use of plastic, unless we manage our plastic waste more scientifically? Look at this. When we think of a single-use plastic bag, it might cost 50 paisa, right? And then your thought is that why should I spend 20 rupees on a cloth bag when a plastic bag is only 50 paisa? But a plastic bag is a single-use one. It can be used once. A cloth bag of the same dimensions, a 10-inch one, for instance, can be used 700 times. I leave it to you to think what is cheaper on your pocket. A single-use plastic bag will carry half the amount that a cloth bag will carry. And that too, it might break because it is so vulnerable to that. The WHO has realized that the microplastics and the nanoplastics are infecting our soil, our health. We are ingesting them. It's in our food. It's in the air we breathe. It's going into our lungs. And they have started a whole series of dialogues on this. It's okay if we don't have that exact statistic of how many hormones are going to change if we ingest plastic, microplastics. But does it give us a license to start to use it now? Are we going to wait till WHO produces those final results saying, so many of you are going to die because of plastics before we stop using it? Think of amount of money that's going to be spent. Some of us might have that insurance and might be able to go to hospital with it. Think of the poor. What is going to happen to them when their lungs are filled with plastic? Oops, I have gone back. This is a scene from Mumbai, a very sad scene, where we've had unprecedented rain, but as Bittu was saying, the water needs to go down, and it has not gone down because the drains are choked with plastic. And this plastic is not biodegradable, so it's going to remain with us for generations. It's not like a banana peel that even if it goes into the drains, after a while it will degrade. Plastic is not going to degrade during my lifetime or your lifetime or the lifetime of even 5 generations from now. So what are we going to do? How are we going to, I'm just bringing up these scenes for you to think of what's going to happen. But I don't want to leave you with just thoughts of this is the situation, now what? Climate depression is happening badly enough. I don't want to increase that. I wanted to show you an example of what the Municipal Corporation of Delhi has done. They have this project which has a grandmother as its symbol. What they've done is they have taken pre-consumer textiles, that is waste textiles, employed women to stitch these into bags. Each bag costs 20 rupees. And there is no need for new infrastructure. They are placing it in markets where you can borrow one by depositing 20 rupees. You can use it for as long as you like. You don't have to come back to that same market to return it and collect your money. You can return it to one of the 1,000 shops that they have all over Delhi and collect your money. So it's a simple project, but perhaps the BMC can take it up here. Imagine the amount of waste that the BMC carries to landfills. Again, there's money involved in that. There's transportation charges. There are landfill charges. If they could do something like this, it would reduce the amount that they're taking there. It would reduce the amount of cloth waste that comes from factories. So, as somebody else also mentioned, it's very important to train our future generations, not when they are in class 10 or 12 or in college, but from the day they enter school itself. So there's a toolkit which we have developed We'll be happy to share it with you for schools, where we ask school children to first get trained on why plastic is bad and how that it is made from fossil fuels and all the other things which all of you know, but they may not know. Then we tell them that now you're ambassadors for Earth. You have to go to 5 households around you, tell others about it, collect the plastic and bring it to school, and we will arrange for the recyclers. It's very important to have those VIPs, as we call them, to spread the news. Here we have Ravina Tandon, with a boat that was made by students of waste plastic, and the boat had nothing else. The fish that was in the boat was also all made of plastic. It was a symbolic way of showing that soon, as the UNEP has said, by 2050 actually, there will be more plastic than fish in the oceans. So what do we have to do? We have to encourage biodegradables. But to encourage biodegradables, we need to have affordable ones. It's no use telling somebody that don't use plastic, go and use a clay pot, unless the clay pot is as economical as the plastic that they are using. So here again, I call upon people who are in the manufacturing sector to mass produce these so that these become available and at a cheaper rate. But let me leave you with one good thought. The film industry, Bollywood, is very prominent in here in Mumbai. There were no laws needed. Although the government of India has passed strictures since 2020 that no single-use plastic has to be used, single-use plastic has to be, done away with. But here there was no law when the film industry decided to change to digital. And why did they change to digital? Because it was cheaper to do it. And second, the technology was available. So you don't always need a law to do things. You need that other incentive, and that is money. Money that makes the world go round. I leave you with this image. This is an image called Earthrise. It was taken by the astronauts from Apollo 8 mission. It shows you how vulnerable and small our Earth is. It's finite. It's not infinite. We have to do something to save not Earth, but ourselves. Because Earth will stay whichever way it is, like Mars stays like a hot planet. But is it going to be habitable for us? As a World Bank president once said, she said, we are the first generation that is facing climate change and the last to be able to do anything about it. So let me not call upon your consciousness of doing something for the environment, but let me give you the motive of money saved by being environment friendly. Those are some of our partners. This is, if you need more information about you, and my colleagues are here, Devapriya and Vinayak. We would be happy to direct your CSR funds or your philanthropy to helping you make money by going plastic free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Singh. Before you leave, as a token of our appreciation and respect, may I request Mr. Ramesh Narayan to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Karuna Singh. Thank you, Ms. Karuna. Thank you, Mr. Narayan. Our next speaker, Ms. Prerna Langa, will tell us Mumbai can withstand climate disasters. Prerna is passionate about creating large-scale impact. She has spearheaded initiatives like a world record-setting youth movement with about 2 million participants. She has been instrumental in setting up the YES Foundation and the ICICI Foundation and is recognized as one of the top 5 social impact professionals in India by the Asia Venture Philanthropy Network. She is now focused on building Aga Khan Agency for Habitat's leadership in climate resilience. Over to you, Ms. Prerna Langa.
Thank you. How do I change? Like this? Yeah. Up, down. So it's wonderful to be here. And thank you, Ramesh, for the invite. In fact, I am a fan of Ramesh's writings. He writes his Missy's Musings on Facebook, through his rescued indie dog, which is always interesting. And it's especially a pleasure to be here because, I always feel that normally when we have sustainability or non-profit discussions, it's with the same people from the non-profit industry. And having media, as an amplifier is really, really great. I also believe in the power of media and in the power of stories. In fact, when I was at Yes Bank Foundation, and I saw our logo as part. So, we had very limited funds and they were like, you need to have an impact and at the same time visibility. So we were like, how can we involve youth in making a change? And we started something at 6 o'clock in the morning on India's Independence Day, you would get 2 topics and you would have to make a film in 4 days on a non-profit, everyday hero, environment, etc. So in fact, within Yes Bank, people were asking me, how, what is this filmmaking and how is it connected to CSR? We found like the power of stories, one story at a time, you can really change the world. In year 1, we had some 2,000 participants. In year 2, 50,000. Year 3, 5 lakh. Year 4, 13 lakh participants in a single year. So it was, giving youth the opportunity to be the voice of the voiceless. So the film was just a bahana in terms of, I feel like once, many of you in the audience, you've been working with social issues, etc. Once you get bitten by the bug, or working with the social issues, or working with a cause, there's no going back, life changes forever. So that's what happened with the youth that participated. Right from, making a film and using the film on this lady who takes care of 300 dogs, a rag picker, to people starting their own initiatives, movement is created. So I do resonate with all the speakers before me also to say that, we feel like our small initiative, how can it really change the world? It really does change the world. So coming to the topic of making Mumbai future ready, I'm in fact an advocate for cities and how can we make cities more livable like a city of Mumbai. A lot of CSR funding goes to rural India. But what about us in terms of the quality of air we breathe or the, the lives that we have? Like outside my window, I have like 5 trees. And I thank the people that have planted the trees. The fact of the matter is 34% of India lives in urban areas. And by 2050, 50% of India is going to live in urban areas. So there is a big opportunity to make our cities more livable. And if you would have seen in terms of impact of climate change, it's like having, first you have a heat wave and then you have floods. It's like diabetes and cholesterol. They go hand in hand. So that's the impact in terms of we feel, oh, it's really hot and how is it going to impact my life? Everything is very connected. So in Maharashtra itself and in Mumbai, you would have seen the disasters that have been happening, and that's the reason it's very important to have a plan. Also from an investor's perspective, having a climate action plan is very important. So Mumbai does have a climate action plan. It was done by WRI and supported by C40. And this climate action plan, they do have a version where they put an investment plan for 24-25. And a big focus in their investment plan is on stormwater drainages to, prevent floods. They've done a lot of work on electric buses. And by 2027, they said all the buses in Mumbai are going to be electric. So there's huge opportunity, not too much of emphasis on other areas, but I guess money is limited and you have to focus on where you really want to go. So in fact, I represent Aga Khan Agency for Habitat, and we are working on the climate action plan of Mira Bhayandar, which is a city of 1.1 billion people. And there we have calculated the greenhouse gas emissions for the last 10 years. And Mira Bhayandar wants to be the garden city of India, projected up to 2047, and we are seeing as to what we can do to bring emissions down. Since I must say the evening was really interesting, it was beyond my expectations in terms of each of the speakers and what they have highlighted. And I guess I'm among the last ones, so I'll focus on what has not been covered. So moving on, I would like to focus on heat and what we can do in terms of cooling solutions. This urban heat island is really an urban phenomenon because from a land use, land cover perspective, we have uncontrolled growth of buildings. So you can see between the city and the outskirts, there's like from 3 to 4 degrees difference in terms of it being hotter. So what can we do from an urban heat perspective is what I'm going to be talking about. And as the speakers before me spoke about rainwater harvesting and solar, and I would like to say about how it can be applied to schools. And the reason I'm talking about it is because we have done it. And creating a culture of preparedness from a disaster perspective. So before I joined Aga Khan Agency for Habitat, I didn't even know how to use a fire extinguisher. So I feel it's very important, like being a resident of any society, to be prepared. Japan is foremost in terms of preparedness. So how can we build the resilience? And I'll keep you all updated. We do have training programs which you can avail free of cost. So in terms of, so we did an assessment in Hyderabad. We did an assessment on a society level. And we put something known as what we call cool roof, which is a reflective kind of paint, and it doesn't cost much. It costs like 40 rupees per square feet or so. And what we found is we did the study with IITM, and we found that there's a huge difference in temperature. So on the surface, the temperature goes down by 19 degrees, and one level below by 3 to 4 degrees, which means a reduction in your AC bill by some 18%. So while it may not be useful for the whole building, but it can be applied to various government offices, etc. So in fact, Hyderabad, after that, they came out with a cool roof policy, where they have implemented it across their government schools and hospitals. And even better than cool roof is the China mosaic tiles that last even longer. So this is one of the solutions we found. And we also did a mapping of Hyderabad city, and we found hotspots where there was maximum heat. And people talk about, what's the use of planting trees, and there are discussions about it. We found that wherever there were trees, the temperature was drastically low. Or where you have your Hussain Sagar Lake, the temperature was low. So it is a huge, huge advantage from creating cooling solutions. How do you create urban green cover, and how do you look at cool roofs, green roofs, etc. So moving from Hyderabad to Mira Bhayandar, we have done the heat mapping of Mira Bhayandar, and we are looking to see as to how we are taking 3 schools. And we are looking at entire green retrofitting, from creating like a green roof to vertical gardens to having grass pavers. So instead of concrete, the water just staying on the surface, it goes down. You don't really have to, from a flood perspective also, it works very well. So like I mentioned, from a perspective of creating a climate action plan, we are in the process of doing it. And Mumbai has it, and it's very important because from any investment perspective, if anybody is an investor, they want to see as to how the needle has moved. And even from your carbon emissions and bringing it down, having a climate action plan really works. So like I was telling you about green schools, so one way of doing the schools is, of course, you can have solar and you can have water harvesting, and it can be done together. Besides that, ensure we do an energy audit of schools and bring down the bills drastically. So their electricity bills goes drastically down. You can even use green energy. In terms of your retrofittings also can be such that you conserve energy. And besides that, we do trainings of the principals, the teachers. If there is an emergency, how do you tackle it? As you would know, during any disasters, the maximum affected are children. Maximum trafficking happens during disasters. So having schools as safe houses or places that they know that they can go to is very important. So, so this is a model which can be used in Mumbai for municipal schools, and we can see how to work it out. Besides that, solutions on all levels. On a site level, if we are looking from a city perspective, it's good if you can have your, electric charging stations. Many people don't have electric cars because where are the charging stations? You can have terrace gardens, ensure waste segregation, etc. On a building surface level, LED lights, drip irrigation, cool roof. And on a flat level, you can see in terms of BLDC fans, LED lights, smart energy meters, and so much more that can be done. We think, what can we do? We live in a city like Mumbai, it's a concrete. I can't really, I don't know how to contribute. I think one starting point is your housing committee. And, ensuring that your committee that runs the building, it is running well. So we do trainings to ensure good housing committees, because we believe that's the building block for anything. If you don't have a good housing committee, your building will age quickly and you'll go into redevelopment. And 35% of global emissions comes from construction. So very important to have that. So we have various programs to teach people to set up a committee, to run a committee. Very difficult to get dues from certain people who don't pay, and to have really excellent ones where it's totally green and rocking. So this is also something that nobody really talks about, but I think it's very important. So moving ahead, cover this. So to sum it up, these are the strategies that can be used from an adaptation, mitigation, and resilience perspective. And moving on, this is personal and not really Aga Khan. Why is it not moving? So I believe that it's about living in harmony with nature. And somehow, I don't know, we feel entitled and that everything is for us. So it's very important to ensure that all the plants, the biodiversity, the animals, we are kind to them. And it's great in terms of what Mumbai city has done from a sterilization perspective. You can see from Churchgate to Bandra, you don't really see, so many stray dogs, or they are well taken care of. So I feel as a society, we owe it to take care and be sensitive to all our surroundings. So I highly advocate this too. So with this, big thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Before you leave, as a token of appreciation and respect, may I request Mr. Ramesh Narayan to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Prerna. Yeah, almost. Thank you, Ms. Prerna. Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. Our next speaker, Mr. Dhanpal Zaveri, is CEO, Eversource, and Vice Chairman, Everstone Group. Mr. Zaveri is also the CEO of Eversource Capital, a leading climate investment business which manages India's largest climate impact fund with assets of over $741 million to combat climate change and accelerate towards net zero goals. This signifies not just his passion for the environment, but his expertise in a very interesting aspect of sustainability subject. Mr. Dhanpal, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. I can understand I'm between, my speech is between now and dinner, but I'll try and be as precise. Can I get the, yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, you heard a whole bunch of very interesting civil society organizations, climate advocates, action, evangelists, and I think I'm going to take a slightly different tack to battling the climate challenge, which is really creating a massive economic opportunity out of this climate challenge, at the same time creating positive climate action and positive climate impact for us as a society as well as for the planet as a whole. Which one is it? You got it? Okay, great. Quick background on who we are. We are a climate-focused fund. We set this up in 2018. We ended up raising the largest single country climate fund in the entire developing world. We have raised close to $1 billion of equity capital. The whole purpose for us was to really drive climate outcomes at scale. And as a result, we took on a massive challenge of raising the capital to make it a reality. We've so far deployed over $2.5 billion. This is actual money in the ground. We've created significant impact, and I'll go and talk about it as to what we've done. I think just one example of it is we've currently mitigated 5.4 million tons of CO2 equivalent just in the last 3.5 years. And by the time we completed, we expect that a target of 44 million tons would have been mitigated in the life of the fund in which we raised it. These are all the companies we've created over the last 3 years. 2 in renewable energy, 2 in electric mobility, 1 which does waste recycling, and we'll talk about that, 1 in water, 1 which does last mile climate lending, and the most recent one where we're making the grid, the energy grid, smart by converting mechanical meters into smart meters. Mumbai is kind of I would say, a city of contrasts. It is one of the largest economies in this country. By itself, if we were to compare $140 billion of GDP, it'll be the size of a small country. And there's been a lot of discussion on how to actually drive growth in Mumbai. With 22 million people or 20 million people, there is a significant amount of economic activity. On a per capita income, we are significantly higher than the national average. But we believe this also creates massive climatic challenges. Starting with pollution, we are amongst the worst, most polluted countries or cities in the world. Just this year, we tracked at 171, and this costs us about $3 billion. Just the bad air quality is costing the city $3 billion in economic costs. What I've done is, through this presentation, identified 4 areas which we can attack the climate problem, at the same time create economic opportunities. 1 is waste, 2nd is sustainable transportation, the 3rd is water, and the 4th is urban planning. If you look at Mumbai, we collect today 6,500 metric tons of waste every day. And this goes, as we all know, to the Deonar landfill, which today is possibly one of the largest landfills. And the interesting fact is that 120 hectares of land is being used to currently store over 12 million tons of waste which has been accumulated. I did a quick cost on the way over here, and I think this 120 hectares today would at least be, minimum land cost would be $2 billion, if not more. It could, and potentially in terms of real estate value on a finished property, they'll be close to about $8 to $10 billion. What we've done, and again, look at all of the other stuff around waste in terms of, I think someone talked about landfills which are leaky, the groundwater kind of pollution which takes place. This waste just stays, and a lot of it is plastic, which I'm told takes 500 years to degrade. So this is really a problem which has kind of got beyond kind of management. What did the Mumbai city do? They gave a contract recently to set up a waste to energy plant, which will be, I'm told, operational by 2025. They're going to spend 650 crores, where a private contractor is going to come in, set up the plant, and process 600 tons of waste out of the 6,500 tons that we have actually generating daily. Just only 10%. The rest of it is all going to go into the landfill. And they're going to generate only 4 megawatts of electricity. We think it's possibly one of the most inefficient structured projects today. And I'm going to give an example of what we've done in Delhi to compare it with. But Dubai, I recently went to Dubai in March, and I visited a waste to energy plant set up over there. They spent $1 billion, which is fairly high from my perspective, but it's going to generate 215 megawatts. $1 billion is about 8,500 crores. That 8,500 crores will process 5,600 tons of waste every day and produced 40 times the energy that the plant in Mumbai is going to produce. They do have a higher plastic component in their waste, and that's why there's something called calorific value, which allows them to produce more energy. But fundamentally, if you can just give you a sense that 40 times more for about 12 times more cost, right? That's the kind of economics. So there's something fundamentally wrong in terms of what Mumbai city is doing in terms of processing their waste. We actually had an opportunity to buy a defunct waste plant in Delhi, which had the capacity to produce 12 tons or 12 megawatts of energy. We actually bought that plant, refurbished it. Today are using 1,300 tons of mixed waste, processing it and producing 12 megawatts of energy. So it's 3 times, and I've spent half the cost, okay, in building and refurbishing that plant. What we did in Indore was even better. As you know, Indore is the cleanest city in India. And one of the things they do very well, which Mumbai needs to do, is segregate waste. They need to be able to split the organic waste and inorganic waste. Indore processes about 650, 700 tons of waste, of which 500 comes to this plant. We essentially, and this is organic waste, we process it to produce renewable natural gas. One of the problems of organic waste is if you leave it in a landfill, it emits something called methane. Methane is 20 times more harmful for the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. And what we are doing with this plant is using a digestion process which is similar to a cow's stomach, using bacteria to essentially digest that particular organic waste matter, taking out the methane, purifying the methane into natural gas, and it's being used now by the Indore city to run their buses for public transportation and by industries in the area for heat and energy purposes. That's what we can do with the waste in Mumbai. It's a very elegant solution. It's a solution which actually makes money at scale, and it's a solution which technology stabilize. It just requires the right kind of what we call PPP model, public-private partnership model, to essentially make happen. The second area, and I think Prerna talked about it, electrification of transportation. This is something that I think now India has already started to recognize the benefits of converting diesel buses, which are used to transport passengers in a city, to electric buses. We actually focused on this area. Today, India has like 2 million plus buses which are in operation. 200,000 of them are by government transport utilities. And the Indian government has taken on a task of actually converting 50,000 of those buses to electric buses. We participated in that program, and I'll talk about it. But a bus is far more efficient than metros. In fact, recently a study was done by the Chief Technology Officer of the Transport for London, which is one of the world's leading public transport utilities. And they found that it is 6 times more efficient to transport someone using buses as compared to using metros. I think they gave a very interesting example of how the Chennai metro spent 12,000 crores with another 6,000 crores of expenditure, and they carry only 200,000 passengers a day. Whereas, there's a huge amount of, the cost per journey is close to 30 rupees as compared to in a bus, which is 5 rupees. Electrifying Bombay is not a huge challenge. because we believe that the economics of replacing a diesel bus with an electric bus is today already proven, where you can actually reduce the fuel cost, you can reduce the cost to the utility. At the same time, you can actually deliver zero tailpipe emission, clean transportation to the I would say the residents of the city. So what we did is we built two businesses. One is a company called Green Cell Mobility, which today runs 1,200 electric buses across 70 cities in India. And those buses today, on an average, we do 550 kilometers intercity, 200 kilometers intracity, and it's already the second largest bus, highly profitable, purely through a PPP model the Indian government decided to launch. On the back of that PPP model, we launched our own consumer brand. It's called Nugo, if you go onto any website. We are operating in 5 hubs: Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Indore, and Delhi. And we service 70 cities from those 5 hubs. Lithium is a company which actually uses only electric vehicles to offer corporate employee transportation. They have about 3,000 vehicles today, and the idea is to take it to about 10,000 vehicles over the next few years. So electric mobility, especially for shared or mass purposes, is a highly profitable and an economic model which is now already here, doesn't need any kind of subsidies. The biggest challenge is actually adoption, which is where states, cities, the country itself needs to come in and drive that adoption. Water, huge challenge. People don't pay for water, and the cost of water, as we know from private operators, is only going up every year. On an average, it costs as much as 250, 300 rupees per kiloliter to get water from a tanker. The city charges, I don't know, 6 rupees to 10 rupees per kiloliter. So there is a massive inbuilt subsidy to a person receiving water, so we don't value. India has got only 4% of the world's water resources and has 18% of the world's population. Massively, possibly one of the most water-stressed zones in the world. There's an opportunity over here also. And we believe the opportunity is both utility focus, which is working with utilities to make themselves more efficient, and consumer focus, which is to, one, make consumers aware and allow them to actually take control of how much water they consume in their own hands. And we've got 2 businesses we've actually set up over the last few years. The image you see on the right, bottom right, is Calcutta's largest water treatment project, where we are taking 185 million liters of water, which is consumed by the city, processing it, and then recharging the water systems back as pretty much potable water. There were 4 plants we've built. This plant was inaugurated by Mr. Modi, and I think by next month will be in operation, which will allow the city to recycle most of its water. Same thing can be done in Mumbai, but I think it requires a lot of, I would say, political will to make it happen. Smarter homes, the narrative on the top is largely about residential societies today. When you look at the billing which takes place, it comes to the society, but the individual flat owners don't have a very precise way of understanding how much water they've consumed and therefore how much should they pay for it. So this is a business we bought, which currently has 42,000 customers, to essentially install a smart meter which gives you the reading of water consumption in your mobile app. At the same time, the residential society, which basically works with us as a customer, can bill each consumer for actually what they consume. So it's power to the consumer to decide how much they're consuming and therefore how much they're paying for the water. And as we all know, water bills are only going up if they're not coming down. Finally, I would say, urban planning is a massive challenge. I did talk about this in an earlier IMC board meeting when the municipal commissioner had come in to talk about the city and what's happening in the next 20 years. As we all know, the development rules of the city have changed, which means even South Mumbai today is one of the biggest redevelopment zones in the city, and the entire city today is pretty much a construction zone. The municipal commissioner said that over the next 20 years, Mumbai will continue to be a construction zone. But there's a real opportunity to change the city, which is what Singapore's done, which is how do you create new spaces, but at the same time, encourage developers to build green spaces along with it, which is vertical gardens, vertical green spaces. There were some very interesting concepts about green roofs, etc. And I think that in my mind is the biggest opportunity the city has to align development or redevelopment and building a, which is what you talked about, Meera Bhayandar type of a situation in Mumbai city, creating a green space, creating a green city, which is very much possible with modern ability to actually create, vertical gardens, vertical forests, landscape, and all kinds of integrated biodiversity within an urban landscape. So I think that, in my mind, it'll be our greatest travesty that if we cannot switch the city to make that happen, invest, and actually get paid for it. Green today pays more, as we all know, right? If you go into any space where there is much more green, people are willing to pay a premium just to be in that green space. And so therefore, there is an economic model in redevelopment which can be integrated with creating more biodiversity. So that's really our vision of what a city can do. Our vision of what India should be is to leapfrog all of the development by being clean and green and creating massive economic opportunities through every slice of this climate challenge that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dhanpal. Before you leave, as a token of our appreciation, may I request Mr. Ram Gandhi, Governor and past President, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Dhanpal. Thank you, Mr. Dhanpal and Mr. Gandhi. So all good things have to come to an end. But before the close of this interesting seminar, I would request Mr. Ajit Mangrulkar, Director General, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to present the vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Mangrulkar.
Thank you, Selby. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being the agents of change. I think Ms. Pratibha Pai told us that we all need to be agents of change, and thank you for joining IMC in being the agents of change. I think we've had a galaxy of experts addressing us, and I would like to thank each and every one of these experts on behalf of IMC for sharing their expertise, for gracing the occasion, and of course for spending the time with us. Mr. Bittu Saigal, Mr. Rajesh Chaudhary, Mr. Neelkantan Iyer, Ms. Anjali Parasnis, Ms. Pratibha Pai, Ms. Prachi Shevgaonkar, Ms. Karuna Singh, Mr. Partha Sinha, Mr. Abhishek Karnani, Mr. Neeraj Roy, Ms. Prerna Langa, and Mr. Dhanpal Javeri. I would also like to thank our Governor and past President, Mr. Ram Gandhi, because this would not have been possible without his leadership. I mean, we all talk about climate, everyone is aware of it. As a chamber, we keep having events, but to do something, and that's something which he said that, we only talk, but what do we do? And this is the first step, and I'm sure that this is going to lead on to something more. Of course, we would like to thank Mr. Ramesh Narayan, who actually conceptualized this whole thing. So a big hand of applause to him, because this whole creation is Mr. Narayanan, and he has really been spearheading this. So thank you so much, sir, for being with us and for guiding us. And like Mr. Gandhi said, that we did not know where to start off from, but I think you led the way. And sincere thanks to media representatives for their participation and to all of you for being with us. But having said this, this event is not possible without some fantastic work from behind the scenes of our team IMC. I would like to thank the officer in charge, Jayashree, Amruta, and of course, the person who has led all of this, Mr. Sanjay Mehta, the Deputy Director General. So thank you so much, everyone. And of course, to Selby, who has been really managing this whole event. So over to you, all of you. Please enjoy the high tea. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for your being a wonderful audience. May I request all the speakers to please come on stage for a group photo? May I request all the speakers to please come on to stage? Mr. Narayan, a group photo of all the speakers. May I request all the speakers? May I request all the speakers of the event, Mr. Ajit Mangrulkar, Mr. Sanjay Mehta, Ms. Sheetal Kalro, please join all of us for the photograph. Please join for the photograph. Yeah, all the speakers, Mr. Dhanpal, Ms. Prerna, please join us on the stage for a group photo. Jayashree, I would also request you as an OIC, please come onto stage. Amruta, yeah. A group photo.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being a wonderful audience. All are requested to kindly join us for refreshments at the rear end of the stage. I hope all the participants are carrying enough value from the seminar, and request all of you all to please submit a filled up feedback form which you got when you registered at the registration counter back to the registration counter, because your inputs are of value to us to improve our services. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind cooperation and patience. All of y'all, I repeat, please submit the filled feedback form at the registration counter with your comments. Your comments are of value to us. Thank you.